One of the most exciting scientific findings of the past half-century has been the discovery of widespread trophic cascades. A trophic cascade is an ecological process which starts at the top of the food chain and tumbles all the way down to the bottom. And the classic example is what happened in the Yellowstone National Park in the United States when wolves were reintroduced in 1995. Now, we all know that wolves kill various species of animals, but perhaps we're slightly less aware that they give life to many others. Before the wolves turned up, they'd been absent for 70 years, that the numbers of deer, because there was nothing to hunt them, had built up in the Yellowstone Park, and despite efforts by humans to control them, they'd managed to reduce much of the vegetation there to almost nothing. They'd just grazed it away. But as soon as the wolves arrived, even though they were few in number, they started to have the most remarkable effects. First, of course, they killed some of the deer, but that wasn't the major thing. Much more significantly, they radically changed the behavior of the deer. The deer started avoiding certain parts of the park, the places where they could be trapped most easily, particularly the valleys and the gorges. And immediately those places started to regenerate. In some areas, the height of the trees quintupled in just 6 years. Bare valley sides quickly became forests of aspen and willow and cottonwood. And as soon as that happened, the birds started moving in. The number of songbirds, of migratory birds, started to increase greatly. The number of beavers started to increase because beavers like to eat the trees. And beavers, like wolves, are ecosystem engineers. They create niches for other species. And the dams they built in the rivers provided habitats for otters and muskrats and ducks and fish and reptiles and amphibians. The wolves killed coyotes, and as a result of that, the number of rabbits and mice began to rise, which meant more hawks, more weasels, more foxes, more badgers. Ravens and bald eagles came down to feed on the carrion that the wolves had left. Bears fed on it too, and their population began to rise as well, partly also because there were more berries growing on the regenerating shrubs. And the bears reinforced the impact of the wolves by killing some of the calves of the deer. But here's where it gets really interesting. The wolves changed the behavior of the rivers. They began to meander less. There was less erosion. The channels narrowed, more pools formed, more riffle sections, all of which were great for wildlife habitats. The rivers changed in response to the wolves. And the reason was that the regenerating forests stabilized the banks so that they collapsed less often, so that the rivers became more fixed in their course. Similarly, by driving the deer out of some places and the vegetation recovering on the valley sides, there was less soil erosion because the vegetation stabilized that as well. So the wolves, small in number, transformed not just the ecosystem of the Yellowstone National Park, this huge area of land, but also its physical geography.
Okay, friends, hey, we need your attention here and need your help. Yep, it's that time again, our pledge drive for Free Speech TV, but it is so important. You know, we say often on the show that this is like a two-way street. Well, it is in more than one way. I mean, one way is every day we'll tell you what's going on here in Washington, D.C., around the country, around the globe. We'll bring you up to date on all the latest news, and then we open up the phones, we open up the social media sites so you can tell us. That's the two-way street. We tell you what's going on. You tell us what you think about it, what it means to you, what it means to your family, what it means to your community, and whether you think this is good or bad for America. That's one way we're a two-way street. We're also a two-way street in a couple of times a year. we not only continue to bring you the best show, the best broadcasting, the best insights, the best commentary, the best guests, the best analysis that we can every day, but we turn to you to help us keep this great network, Free Speech TV, on the air. You know, it is one of its kind. You don't find this anywhere else, and believe me, you know, I've worked at ABC and MSNBC and CNN and a couple of other networks. This Free Speech TV is the only truly free and independent and uncensored and fearless cable television network out there. But without any government support, any corporate support, we depend on you to keep free speech going. So we ask you again, please be as generous as you can and do it today. We need to make at least $1,000 every day from our pledge drive to keep free speech going and to keep this show going. If you can help us with $60 a week, tell you what, we'll send you $60 a year. That's $5 a month. Send you a Free Speech TV travel mug for $120 a year. That's just $10 a month. Send you that Free Speech travel mug and a Free Speech TV T-shirt for $240 a year, $20 a month. A great, great gift. A Bill Press Show mug, and then a copy, a box of gifts from Africa. It's called the Equal Exchange African Gift Box, which includes a pound of coffee, some shea butter soap, a bangle bracelet, and peppermint limb balm, among other objects in this exciting Equal Exchange African Gift Box for $360 a year or $30 a month. How about this? A Free Speech TV mug, 2 Bill Press mugs, and that African gift box. And if you can manage to help Free Speech TV with $1,000, you make your way to Washington, and Carol and I will take you out to dinner, and then you come into the studio the next morning and meet all of our team and enjoy the show. Make your pledge today as generously as you can by phone at 877-378-8669 or online at freespeechtv.org. Thank you for your help.
You know, sometimes when I'm walking down the street, I'm not necessarily looking out and seeing all these water-wasting lawns and people that aren't as connected to their neighbors and their lives as they could be. I'm walking down the street looking, going, edible oases, rainwater, fed landscape, and just looking at the possibility of these sort of landscapes up and down the streets of neighborhoods and communities all across this world. Small actions do ripple, and they add up, and they have a cumulative impact. And so when you're building upon your small mindful actions, you know, you have the confidence and the ability to take on something a little bit greater. So that could be nice. This, in the context of where we're at as a planet with climate change and these really big issues and people that are more disconnected and less skilled than ever, it becomes even more amazing and powerful how much of a solution this is to design these ecological gardens and to come together with shared vision and shared voice. There's never been a time where your choices have mattered more. Doing something as simple as us transforming a landscape creates a model that anybody could look at far and wide, and you're sharing food and connecting and building skills together in your own neighborhood. It's a richer way to live in normal times, but in the new normal of climate change and erratic weather and economic upheaval, it becomes essential. Whether it's me, you, Gandhi, Che, MLK, Willy Wonka, whoever, past, present, or future, the power of our daily actions is all that we have. You know, and like our community said, give me a place to stand and a lever long enough and I'll move the world. And that's what those simple actions do. They move the world every day.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
And my name is Clinton Yates. Welcome to the program. It's me. It's Tuesday, March 3rd, 2015. I'm filling in for Bill. Very happy to be here on this dreary, icy morning in the district. We will get into more of that later, but I want to thank you all for tuning in. Of course, if you are watching us on TawkrTV on YouTube or on one of your many progressive stations around the country, thank you very much. You can listen to us on the iHeartRadio app, also on the TuneIn app. I use that one a lot, too. Check us out at Facebook.com/Bill Press Show. You can see my, what am I wearing today? A North Face hoodie. It's that time of year where I really just don't care, and I'm dressing completely for function.
Yeah.
That first voice you heard was that of Peter Ogburn. Peter, how are you?
Clinton,
Peter?
good to see you, buddy.
You too.
Yeah, we dressing for comfort, dressing for function. I'm all for it.
Listen, I learned that lesson a long time ago. That's what I'm here for. Yeah. Across the window on the boards is, of course, Lisa Murphy. How are you?
Hey, good morning. Good to be here.
If you give us a phone call, 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. Alicia Cruz will pick up the phone and talk to you. And the man who's making my red sweatshirt look decent is, of course, Cyprian Bolding, who is operating the video stuff. So this weekend I went to my new thing this year has been to enjoy more of the theater.
Oh, nice.
And I went to a play. I went to a play called Kid Victory. It was at the Signature Theater in Shirlington, not to get too overly local for those of you listening around the country, but it's a suburb of D.C. where they have quaint things.
It's a great theater.
It is a great theater. It's actually a really good theater. It was the first time I'd ever been there, so that was very exciting. And Kid Victory is kind of a fascinating story about a kid who is trying to sort of figure out his own sexuality, but also is dealing with a very small traditional town and ends up in a runaway / kidnapping situation with a man who ends up becoming his lover and abuser.
Oh, wow.
And it's like really intense. And I didn't really know what to expect. And it's a musical. So there's there's songs, but there's some lighthearted parts, but it actually is really, really intense, you know. And I don't know. You see a lot of plays and some are sort of over the top about one thing or they're just so goofy on another end, especially if they're musicals. This was a really good play. So for those of you who are remotely within the area or might happen to be in the area, Kid Victory is a good play. What did you do this weekend?
I had a date night with Mrs. Ogburn and some friends, which I had mentioned. But I saw on Saturday, I saw Lewis Black and our friend John Fugelsang at the Warner Theater, another great theater.
Very nice place.
DC. And it was a celebration of the First Amendment. Right, so and the celebration of the Bill of Rights. That's kind of how they build it. It's going to be a TV show later on. But I didn't realize when I got the tickets that also on the bill was Tom Smothers.
Wow.
Who was like drop dead hilarious.
Really?
I didn't expect it to be.
What kind of material is he running at this point of the career?
Relatively clean, but seriously, smart, hilarious. Like edgy without being look, I'm dirty, right? But it was edgy without being dirty.
Yeah, you could really retell the joke at a dinner party.
I was telling my kids some of the jokes last night at dinner. But then Dick Gregory came out. And like I've never seen Dick Gregory do stand up. I only know Dick Gregory
from his activist days. And I would say most people of a certain age are probably not dissimilar.
Yeah. So he came out and he told like 2 or 3 jokes. And then just turned the set on its head and just talked about Ferguson. He talked about some of the hatred towards Barack Obama. He talked about inequality, not only among African Americans, but among women.
Got a little uncomfortable in there.
But it was great because it was not that kind of crowd. And respect to him. He didn't care.
Right.
He just sat up there and he just talked.
That's been Dick Gregory's MO from the jump. He doesn't care.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't care what anybody thinks.
Great.
He just speaks his mind.
Yeah.
That is fascinating. All right.
It was terrific.
Dick Gregory. I've never seen him do comedy either.
I mean, having seen him do a set, it's tough for me to say I've seen him do comedy.
Yeah. Right.
Because there was a whole lot of comedy to it. But, I mean, he was a force. And, Jesus, he's up there.
How old is he?
He's got to be in his 80s now.
Yeah.
I would think.
Anyway, Dick Gregory still going strong. Got a lot to get to on the program today, but first,
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. If you're a coffee drinker, you're not alone. A new study by the Boston Medical Center shows that there are more people drinking coffee than researchers thought, but not necessarily in a good way. 15% of parents say that their 2-year-olds drink coffee.
not buying that.
No way.
Not
I'm
buying
serious.
that at all.
This is a study from the Boston Medical Center. There's actually a scene which they say happened in some parts of Brooklyn, New York, called Baby Chino, and parents give their children like 2 tablespoons of coffee, right? No more than that because they think that's too much.
Wait,
That's
hold on.
terrible.
Who's selling baby chinos?
Well, the parents are making.
There's always a new
these
market
things.
to grab.
These parents are making these things.
I'm not buying that. I'm sorry. I just don't understand why you would feel the need to compelled to do that.
I don't know any parents who do that. This story comes out of Bloomberg Business.
Wow.
By the Boston
It's
Medical
the new
Center.
hipster bit in Park Slope.
I
If
know,
that's what's happening,
seriously.
if
Give your
that's
kid
what's
a flat
happening,
white, you know.
That's a little scary. Wow. Yesterday, Google confirmed something that many people had been rumored. There have been rumors about for a long, long time. They would like to be a carrier. They want to be a mobile phone data
Let me explain something
company.
to you.
Go ahead.
This is a major game changer.
It's a huge game.
If this
changer.
actually happens, you're talking about Google becoming literally the only shop you have to go. I mean, full one-stop shop of all things. If they get into that market, you could see a massive global takeover.
It was at the Mobile World Congress yesterday in Barcelona, and their senior VP talked about, said, we absolutely would like to offer talk and data plans to our customers, and then they would become what's called a mobile virtual network operator. We won't stay in the weeds here too long, but that means that they could buy wholesale access from Sprint and T-Mobile networks and then sell their cellular plans to their own customers.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a completely natural evolution of their brand and their product.
Totally.
That makes sense to me.
Totally. And the Houston Rockets are doing quite well, but they're going to have to do it without James Harden for at least one game. He has been suspended because he kicked LeBron James in the nuts on Sunday, something you cannot do.
I was wondering how you were going to refer to that.
I mean, what are we going to do? We're going to
Came
sugarcoat
straight,
Not
this?
came straight
groin.
at it.
We're going to sugarcoat this?
Man region,
Kick the man in the nuts.
crown jewels.
Kick LeBron right in the nuts. I mean, that's just how it happened.
Honestly, I think this is more than a one-game suspension. I mean, I realize that in the heat of the moment, you do things that you might not otherwise do if you were thinking twice about it, but you can't have this in the NBA. You can't have kids thinking this is okay. This is it should be a 5-game suspension
There are
for hitting
rules
somebody in the junk. It
among
really
men.
should.
There are rules
Yeah.
among men. You've been in fist fights. I've been in fist fights.
Absolutely. And you don't hit a guy in the
You don't hit a
junk.
guy in the nuts.
I mean, unless you have no shot and you are literally in physical danger.
You don't start with the nuts.
You don't start
That's
with
where
that.
Harden started.
That's right. That's a game ender where
Yeah.
you know you are outmatched.
Yeah.
And you have no choice but to resort to that. Wow.
There's just some common ground. There's just
Yeah, you
rules
just can't do
gotta
that.
know as a man. You don't do that.
James Harden gives him more time to enjoy what I like to call the Houston nightlife, if you know what I'm talking about. Anyway. Thank you very much, Peter. You can look that one up on Google if you want to know what I'm talking about. So, once again, because it's Tuesday and it's America, more about the police brutality situation in this country is coming out. And there were 2 sort of major developments that happened yesterday. Number one was that after the city of Cleveland discussed what happened in the Tamir Rice case, he was, of course, 12 years old, and he was shot just sitting in a park with a toy gun by a police officer who barely even got out of the car before he killed this kid. It was stated by the city that he was basically responsible for his own death for failing to avoid a trigger-happy cop. Obviously, people were upset about this. They thought the phraseology was not only wrong, but highly insensitive to a situation that involved another child being murdered in cold blood, obviously a kid of color. I say obviously because this is pretty much how this happens most of the time. And it created a lot of outrage. The mayor came out and apologized for it yesterday. We've got some audio of that. Want to hear that from the Cleveland mayor?
In an attempt to protect all of our defenses, we use words and we phrase things in such a way that was very insensitive.
Now, there's a couple of different things about that clip that I want to parse and get into here. He says that in an attempt to defend themselves, they used words that were insensitive. Mind you, he makes no mention. I mean, in that clip, that's obviously a short clip, but his concern here is mentioning that the words they used are insensitive, not that they whacked a kid on a playground who was literally sitting there playing with a toy. Now, I understand that there are legal ramifications to sort of everything every single public official says at all times. But the bottom line is that the people that deserve the apology are his family for what happened, not just how it was classified in a court document. Now, again, is it a considerate thing to do to maybe apologize for saying that a kid was responsible for his own death? Yes. But the fact is that who was actually responsible was your police department, Cleveland, and not anybody else or anything else involved. And that's something that, in sort of the way that people parse out each different thing of scandals now is going to get overlooked. Let's not forget what actually happened, which is that a kid lost his life as a result of a police officer. And it's frightening.
That is, we start there.
Yeah.
We start with the fact that a kid who did not have a weapon was shot by a police officer. You start there.
Yeah.
Right? You don't start with, well, what did this child do to bring this type of reaction from a police officer? You start with finding out why in the hell a police officer leapt out of his car and shot this kid with very, it was so fast.
It was so fast.
It was so fast. And I know that people are going to make the argument that Tamir Rice should not have had a gun that looked that real. And fine, put that out there. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, okay, he should not have had a gun that looked that real. Do I think that if he had a bright orange Nerf gun,
yeah.
Do I think he still would have been shot?
Probably. And that's the bottom line here, is that the reason why I probably shouldn't have had a gun like that is because cops in this country are too busy shooting people, not because there's anything wrong with that. I'm fairly certain Ohio is an open carry state. Yep. Am I fairly certain? I mean, I know that to be fact because I know people in Ohio who carry guns. And so you shouldn't be just shooting people every time you see someone with a gun, real or fake. That's the whole point of the law. That aside, there's another situation that is really, really very frightening that happened in L.A. on Skid Row. I'm sure you've all seen the videos going around about a homeless man who, according to police officers, grabbed an officer's gun during an altercation and ended up getting pumped full of lead, as we've seen this situation play out over and over and over again. It's really disheartening. It's part of what we're dealing with every day in America. I want to get your phone calls on what your thoughts are on this. 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. What did you think of the mayor of Cleveland's apology about the phrasing of how Tamir Rice was responsible? And what did you think of the video of the homeless man who was killed on Skid Row by LAPD, our favorite police department in the world?
Again.
Give me a ring. Let us know. I'm Clinton Yates. I'm filling in for Bill Press. It's Tuesday. Talk to you soon.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, friends, hey, we need your attention here and need your help. Yep, it's that time again, our pledge drive for Free Speech TV, but it is so, so important. You know, we say often on the show that this is like a two-way street. Well, it is in more than one way. I mean, one way is every day we'll tell you what's going on here in Washington, D.C., around the country, around the globe. We'll bring you up to date on all the latest news, and then we open up the phones, we open up the social media sites so you can tell us. That's the two-way street. We tell you what's going on. You tell us what you think about it, what it means to you, what it means to your family, what it means to your community, and whether you think this is good or bad for America. That's one way we're a two-way street. We're also a two-way street in a couple of times a year. We not only continue to bring you the best show, the best broadcasting, the best insights, the best commentary, the best guests, the best analysis that we can every day. But we turn to you to help us keep this great network, Free Speech TV, on the air. You know, it is one of its kind. You don't find this anywhere else. And believe me, you know, I've worked at ABC and MSNBC and CNN and a couple of other networks. This Free Speech TV is the only truly free and independent and uncensored and fearless cable television network out there. But without any government support, any corporate support, we depend on you to keep free speech going. So we ask you again, please be as generous as you can and do it today. We need to make at least $1,000 every day from our pledge drive to keep free speech going and to keep this show going. If you can help us with $60 a week, tell you what, we'll send you $60 a year. That's $5 a month. Send you a Free Speech TV travel mug for $120 a year. That's just $10 a month. Send you that Free Speech travel mug and a Free Speech TV T-shirt for $240 a year, $20 a month. A great, great gift. A Bill Press Show mug, and then a box of gifts from Africa. It's called the Equal Exchange African Gift Box, which includes a pound of coffee, some shea butter soap, a bangle bracelet, and peppermint limb balm, among other objects in this exciting Equal Exchange African Gift Box for $360 a year or $30 a month. How about this? A Free Speech TV mug, 2 Bill Press mugs, and that African gift box. And if you can manage to help Free Speech TV with $1,000, you make your way to Washington, and Carol and I will take you out to dinner, and then you come into the studio the next morning and meet all of our team and enjoy the show. Make your pledge today as generously as you can by phone at 877-378-8669 or online at freespeechtv.org. Thank you for your help.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
And online on TawkrTV, this is the Bill Press Show.
Welcome back to the program. My name's Clinton Yates. I'm filling in for Bill Press here on a Tuesday, turning up on a Tuesday, as the kids say. You want to hit us up on the Twitter box at BP Show is where to do that. We're talking about Tamir Rice in Cleveland and also about the situation that just unfolded in Los Angeles. Video pretty much went viral yesterday about a shooting that happened on Skid Row. 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. Looking to get your thoughts on what you thought about the apology that the mayor of Cleveland gave to the Rice family, as well as what you saw from that video yesterday. I'm going to get a couple audio clips here that we want to go to. The mayor of L.A. said a couple of different things about what was sort of happening surrounding that video, which I thought were very interesting. His name is Eric Garcetti.
And I would remind people that cameras only tell one part of the story. They can be from one angle. They can be edited to show one part of the story. So this will be one element that will strengthen the investigation, but it will not by itself be the sole determinant.
So one side of the story, the cameras tell, as if cameras are some sort of biased individual that comes into a situation on its own with its own preconceived notions. They can be, I mean, he's sort of inserting a level of doubt here that is very, very strange to me. It's like, well, the whole point of the camera is that, I mean, okay, it tells one side, but that's a physical side. Yeah. That's not a viewpoint in these, intellectual standpoint. It's in the physical standpoint. And what you see in that video looks pretty bad. There's, half a dozen guys who are having trouble subduing this man whom they tried to use a stun gun with. Again, my concern always comes back to this, Peter. Why does everybody have to get shot and killed?
I'm watching this video, and they have this guy on the ground, and you've got like 5 or 6 police officers on him if it takes more than that to hold a guy down on the ground, that the next thing you got to do is shoot, 5 shots, 6 shots?
I think it was 6 shots.
You're just not very good at your job.
That's what I'm saying. That
Sorry.
Your tactical methods are very poor at that point. You can't find a way to subdue a man physically without shooting and killing him.
And this is the problem that's plagued every police brutality or case where a police officer kills somebody is I don't understand why good police officers, can't just say, these guys did a bad job.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Because, look, of course there are good police officers out there. But they're not willing to call out when bad police officers act poorly.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to have somebody. You've got to be able to have your colleagues hold your feet to the fire and say, look, I would never do this. This is how it's supposed to be done.
Yeah.
These guys did it wrong. They should be fired. They're giving everybody else a bad name. That's what it's going to come down to.
That would solve a lot of public perception about why people hate
thin blue line, this brotherhood, this camaraderie, this fraternity of police officers, where you can't say one bad word about another cop, is literally killing people.
It is.
It is interesting, though, how the L.A. situation has video, but the Tamir Rice situation had a 911 call, where the guy even says on the call, look, I think he's playing with a gun, a toy gun, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And no one talks about that.
Yeah, that's there. And there's video of the Tamir Rice shooting. There's video. The cop pulls up, jumps out, shoots the kid. Boom.
It's messed up.
It's
really messed up.
It's crazy.
I think LAPD used to be known for the beatdowns.
That's right.
I mean, this used to be what their MO was. And now that has obviously upgraded itself to a lot of killings. I mean, look, it's really hard. Honestly, talking about this week in and week out, every time I'm on this show, becomes depressing. I mean, and it's not beyond the sort of sense of the specific injustice of somebody losing their life. It's just you think, do we have to explain this over and over again? And I just sort of feel like at some point, I just don't know what has to happen in order for people to say what you're talking about, for an officer or a group of officers to stand up and say, this is wrong. You are making me look bad and you are taking lives. I don't know who that officer is going to be or what that unit is going to be. And when it does, I guarantee you the people of America will stand up and applaud and say, thank you. We told you so. We know that not everybody out here is a rogue and a scumbag, but there's too many people doing that on too many YouTube videos to not pay attention. We'll be right back. I'm Clinton Yates. This is the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, friends, hey, we need your attention here and need your help. Yep, it's that time again, our pledge drive for Free Speech TV, but it is so, so important. You know, we say often on the show that this is like a two-way street. Well, it is in more than one way. I mean, one way is every day we'll tell you what's going on here in Washington, D.C., around the country, around the globe. We'll bring you up to date on all the latest news. And then we open up the phones. We open up the social media sites so you can tell us. That's the two-way street. We tell you what's going on. You tell us what you think about it, what it means to you, what it means to your family, what it means to your community, and whether you think this is good or bad for America. That's one way we're a two-way street. We're also a two-way street in a couple of times a year. We not only continue to bring you the best show, the best broadcasting, the best insights, the best commentary, the best guests, the best analysis that we can every day, but we turn to you to help us keep this great network, Free Speech TV, on the air. You know, it is one of its kind. You don't find this anywhere else, and believe me, you know, I've worked at ABC and MSNBC and CNN and a couple of other networks. This Free Speech TV is the only truly free and independent and uncensored and fearless cable television network out there. But without any government support, any corporate support, we depend on you to keep free speech going. So we ask you again, please be as generous as you can and do it today. We need to make at least $1,000 every day from our pledge drive to keep free speech going and to keep this show going. If you can help us with $60 a week, tell you what, we'll send you $60 a year. That's $5 a month. Send you a Free Speech TV travel mug for $120 a year. That's just $10 a month. Send you that Free Speech travel mug and a Free Speech TV T-shirt for $240 a year, $20 a month. A great, great gift. A Bill Press Show mug, and then a copy, a box of gifts from Africa. It's called the Equal Exchange African Gift Box, which includes a pound of coffee, some shea butter soap, a bangle bracelet, and peppermint limb balm, among other objects in this exciting Equal Exchange African Gift Box for $360 a year or $30 a month. How about this? A Free Speech TV mug, 2 Bill Press mugs, and that African gift box. And if you can manage to help Free Speech TV with $1,000, you make your way to Washington, and Carol and I will take you out to dinner, and then you come into the studio the next morning and meet all of our team and enjoy the show. Make your pledge today as generously as you can by phone at 877-378-8669 or online at freespeechtv.org. Thank you for your help.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now. Please.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
What up, kiddos? It's me, Clinton Yates. I'm filling in for Bill here on a Tuesday. Got some extra friends in studio with me and Peter. It's one Arthur Delaney, proud Georgetown Day School graduate. How are you, Arthur?
Fantastic. Thank you.
It's very local right there. It's very hyper-local for those of you who don't know what that is.
Hi, Mr. Delaney.
Hi, Peter.
It's good to see you, man.
I understand that there is some money that needs to exchange hands in the studio next time the actual host, when Bill Press, is here.
So Bill would have loved to have been here, Arthur, as you know.
It's suspicious that he's not here right now.
He had a previously scheduled event.
Of course.
He had him out of town. He's in Las Vegas for a speech, but...
he skipped town.
I'm sure he's going to pay you just as soon as you guys see each other.
On the show last Tuesday, we were talking about the likelihood of a Homeland Security shutdown, and Bill seemed to think it was a sure thing. And I said, no, they'll probably do a clean CR. Those were my exact words. That's exactly what happened. And I said, I bet you $1. That's right, $1. And Bill didn't shake my hand or anything.
Bill wanted to make it $10,000. He wanted to go Romney style. $10,000.
Up the ante a little bit.
$10,000.
I have a newsletter, and it's that tiny letter, Arthur Delaney HP, and I said, Bill Press owes me $1. I'll be there on Tuesday at 6:30 a.m. to collect a $1 bill from Bill. Turns out Bill's not here, so that's what happened.
Alas, I'm not Bill, thankfully.
I know,
so you will get nothing from me, and like it. So let's talk about this food stamp situation.
Okay.
You've been writing a lot about this. Of course, Arthur writes for the Huffington Post. You can find him on Twitter at Arthur Delaney HP. You know what? Just on a basic level, why are so many people in the GOP so pressed about cutting food stamps?
One of their happiest legacies is welfare reform from the 1990s. And when they did that, they basically stifled the program most associated with welfare, which is now known as temporary assistance for needy families. It is 3% of all our means-tested safety net spending. It's a tiny program that can never come back to its former glory. But they missed food stamps, and food stamps exploded. It is one of the largest safety net programs, and people are really into it because of the natural human dislike of standing in line. So when people are at the grocery store and they're waiting behind somebody buying a bunch of food, and then they see that the person has an EBT card, they fill with rage, and this is my theory, that they see a lot of their problems in that shopping cart.
So you think it's that simple for a lot of people?
That's
I know what you're saying. I get what you're saying. That's sort of an extension of, sort of people's fear of, whatever, poor folks taking over the country. But you do think that visceral reaction when simply buying food actually plays into how people feel about
this? A simpler way for me to explain this is that it's 46 million people on the program. That's a lot.
Yeah.
1 in 7 Americans. And untold additional multiples of that number who also go to the grocery store and are aware of the program.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a program that is more visible and one that people interact with more than probably any other. Because there's no other program where you have to flash your card to use it like food stamps. So politicians are very interested in it. They tell stories about what happens at the grocery store all the time. Just last week, a Republican member of Congress at a town hall, a Republican at a agriculture committee hearing, talked about their constituents at the store being unhappy waiting in line behind somebody who was buying whatever it was.
Somebody was trying to feed themselves, God forbid.
Well, I mean, you can be buying steak and lobster, and that's annoying, or you can be buying junk food and oh man, why is the government buying junk food for people? The only thing that I think would make people truly happy is if people on food stamps were buying beans and rice.
Yeah,
and you would have to
if the poors just stayed in their houses,
in a burlap
didn't bother
sack.
me. Everything would be good.
It's because of the visibility that you just mentioned that makes it such a target.
Yes. So to continue to be self-referential about myself and this show, we had a caller last week who said, Arthur, what is the percentage of African Americans on food stamps? I said it's about 25%. I think I actually said 24%. The percentage of whites is 40%.
Right.
And so I was just thinking, people don't know this. And we did a story.
3,500 comments on that story, Arthur.
One of our
topic.
One of our top stories in the story merely took some basic data, demographic data, about the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, just put it out there in a slightly cheeky headline, only slightly.
Right.
And thank you, Johnny, for the call.
Yeah.
That's right.
And it was who gets food stamps? White people, mostly. And extremely viral story. I got so much nasty email over the weekend. It was breathtaking.
We like that, such as.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of airing out nasty emails.
Love them.
Well, I didn't come with any of the memorized,
Just off
but
the top of your head, what was the worst one?
Significant amount of it was just breathtakingly racist.
Right.
Most of it observed, well, white people are a larger share of the population, so shouldn't you have pointed out that African Americans are statistically more likely? And no, no, because people should know that a minority population is one that has fewer people in it. That should just be automatic.
That's what that means.
And people were saying, well, which population starts the most riots? And I honestly, I think the answer is, again, white people, because go look at after a college.
That is a great question.
Yeah.
Which population starts the most riots?
It's college kids after a sports event.
Absolutely.
And it's
right up the
always
street
white
here
kids.
at University of Maryland. Guys are burning couches every other week, every time.
Still white people. So, but there were like N-words and things like that. It was a very angry reaction. And my sense is that people really didn't have any, or there's little understanding of the demographics of food stamps. One guy said, this can't be true. Because at the store, I only see African Americans using food stamps.
Wow.
Of course, he didn't say African Americans.
Of course.
No, no, he's not quite so enlightened.
Far more.
So this is, I have a Google alert because I cover this program at my job, and every day local news is doing stories about it. And I know there's just an appetite for more information and a lack of understanding because they'll get basic things wrong. So I'm trying to just do more sort of basic things like this. Fortunately for me, Republicans in Congress are looking at the program.
Okay.
They're doing a long-term review. There's a possibility that this year something could happen because they'll do, an overall budget cut, perhaps.
Right.
So it's an exciting topic that people care about a lot.
We're talking with Arthur Delaney of the Huffington Post here on the Bill Press Show. I'm Clinton Yates, filling in for him on a Tuesday. Who is Glenn Grothman, and what is his deal?
He is it's Grothman.
Grothman. Pardon me, Glenn.
And he is one of the congressmen, or Republican congressmen who I mentioned, told the story of his constituents relating to him being frustrated that people are buying stuff with food stamps at line. And it's a common story. He had a little different twist on it, which was that, and this is according to a paraphrase of a local reporter.
Okay.
Who I asked, what was the full quote? I also asked Grothman's office, how exactly did he say this? But he reportedly told his constituents, keep an eye on what people are using their EBT card for.
Keep an eye on. Yeah, just inciting hysteria, basically.
Well, not hysteria, but just vigilance, I guess. Because
what does that mean? I mean, I don't even understand
now,
what
to
the
be
goal
clear,
of that is.
He is not on the committee that is looking at food stamp reform, which is the Agriculture Committee. However, they have not said what they might do, except that they don't want to just come out and cut benefits like they've tried to do, Republicans, in recent years. And this is a topic, a food stamp topic that gets a lot of attention. What are people buying, and can we restrict it? Because you can buy anything with food stamps except cigarettes, alcohol, or household products, or a hot meal, any food. So you can buy steak.
Right.
You can buy Cheerios. You could buy Fruit Loops. You can buy soda.
Fruit Loops.
And Michael Bloomberg came out and said, we've got to get the soda out of the food stamps. And it's a tricky topic because, okay, you restrict sugary drinks. Are you going to restrict cranberry juice?
Right.
The juices, sure.
Yeah. The juice has more sugar than anything else.
Of course. Right.
And any effort to do this immediately runs into a thicket of opposition from industry groups. At these hearings last week, the hallway was jammed with the Bakers Association, the American Beverage Association. Every big food group lobbying interests will come out. They were just there just to make sure we're not going to ban soda.
Right. This whole notion of, well, if we're giving them stuff for free, as people like to say, we've got to make sure that we can control what they eat. Think about how frightening that sounds on a real level. If you were to sort of take the America aspect out of that and just make a movie about people on Mars who certain populations were being controlled what they could eat and what they could and could not do, you would look at it and say that's completely inhumane and it makes no sense. But because it's happening in the context of rural America and poor America, where people are all frightened about what whoever is buying in front of them, and it seems to be a reasonable proposition. It is not. It is ridiculous. Excuse me. We're talking with Arthur Delaney here on the Bill Press Show. Obviously of Huffington Post. When we get back, we're going to discuss some other things, which are the obsession with drug testing that seems to be going on all over the right side of the aisle. It's Tuesday. I'm coughing. I'll probably go to the store and buy some cough syrup with my food stamps. I don't need to do that. Anyway, I'm Clinton Yates. We'll be right back.
Okay, friends, hey, we need your attention here and need your help. Yep, it's that time again, our pledge drive for Free Speech TV, but it is so important. We say often on the show that this is like a two-way street. Well, it is in more than one way. I mean, one way is every day we'll tell you what's going on here in Washington, D.C., around the country, around the globe. We'll bring you up to date on all the latest news, and then we open up the phones, we open up the social media sites so you can tell us. That's the two-way street. We tell you what's going on. You tell us what you think about it, what it means to you, what it means to your family, what it means to your community, and whether you think this is good or bad for America. That's one way we're a two-way street. We're also a two-way street in a couple of times a year. We not only continue to bring you the best show, the best broadcasting, the best insights, the best commentary, the best guests, the best analysis that we can every day, but we turn to you to help us keep this great network, Free Speech TV, on the air. You know, it is one of its kind. You don't find this anywhere else. And believe me, you know, I've worked at ABC and MSNBC and CNN and a couple of other networks. This Free Speech TV is the only truly free and independent and uncensored and fearless cable television network out there. But without any government support, any corporate support, we depend on you to keep free speech going. So we ask you again, please be as generous as you can and do it today. We need to make at least $1,000 every day from our pledge drive to keep free speech going and to keep this show going. If you can help us with $60 a week, tell you what, we'll send you $60 a year. That's $5 a month. Send you a Free Speech TV travel mug for $120 a year. That's just $10 a month. Send you that Free Speech travel mug and a Free Speech TV T-shirt for $240 a year, $20 a month. A great, great gift. A Bill Press Show mug, and then a copy, a box of gifts from Africa. It's called the Equal Exchange African Gift Box, which includes a pound of coffee, some shea butter soap, a bangle bracelet, and peppermint limb balm, among other objects in this exciting Equal Exchange African Gift Box for $360 a year or $30 a month. How about this? A Free Speech TV mug, 2 Bill Press mugs, and that African gift box. And if you can manage to help Free Speech TV with $1,000, you make your way to Washington, and Carol and I will take you out to dinner, and then you come into the studio the next morning and meet all of our team and enjoy the show. Make your pledge today as generously as you can by phone at 877-378-8669 or online at freespeechtv.org. Thank you for your help.
This is the Bill Press Show.
And my name is Clinton Yates. Welcome back to the program. We've got Arthur Delaney in studio. You can follow him on Twitter at Arthur Delaney HP. He is, of course, of the Huffington Post. We were discussing one Glenn Grothman earlier about his situation regarding food stamps. Give us a call, 866-55-PRESS, 866-55-77377. Pat in Beloit, is it?
Yes. Yes.
Good morning, Pat. How are you?
Good morning. And I'm south of where he comes from, but you know, I consider myself as Wisconsin, and as far as where I live, and I'm a terrorist because I'm a public servant. So the thing is, Glenn Grothman is a wackadoodle. He's just so far out there, and he would do something like that. He's kind of like the tip of the spear for Scott Walker. You know, just anything he can do far to the right, that his nose against the wall, and he's nuts. And when I saw him get elected last fall, I went, oh no, another embarrassment for Wisconsin.
Pat, when you go to the grocery store, do you look into other people's carts to see what they are buying?
No, and generally speaking,
you don't.
By the way, I do.
I do.
I 100% do.
That is a human. That is a human tendency.
You kidding me? That's my favorite thing in the world.
Pat, how do you?
I just read the magazines sitting there, all the Inquirers and stuff. That's more entertaining than somebody's cart.
Thank you for the phone call, Pat. I appreciate it.
I spy what people buy.
Why do you do that?
I can't help it.
I'm curious by nature.
What do they got? Different from what I got.
If I was a Wisconsin college student, a young entrepreneurial college student, I would be coming up with a way to design like grocery baskets that don't allow you to see into somebody else's cart. Yeah. How about that? You can look. And
I think the grocery store would have something to say about that.
That's true. They probably do sell a lot more stuff because people can see what other people are buying.
Pat made a point about tip of the spear. Mm-hmm. So Glenn Grothman is a freshman Republican. He is not a more senior ranking person, and I think it's typical for perhaps more inflammatory comments to come from
guys trying to make a name for themselves.
Guys.
Yeah,
not really even trying, but they just happen to do it. And there's a dynamic where leadership, John Boehner will kind of roll his eyes and sigh at this kind of thing, but they're glad to have it there.
Yeah.
They're glad they have people saying this kind of stuff because it taps into a real undercurrent that's out there, and they don't want to have to tap into it themselves because it can be a little dirty.
She mentioned Scott Walker, who wants to get everybody drug tested for everything, no matter where they're going or what they're doing. What's this guy's deal?
Scott Walker, as part of his presidential push, unveiled a budget last fall. And people were like, this is just your campaign budget. But he won election, and he stuck with this part of it that people thought might have been a ruse, which was drug testing for like every safety net program, for food stamps, for unemployment insurance, for a range of state-based programs in Wisconsin. And this was a little unusual because, like I was saying, drug testing typically comes from a little bit fringier aspect, from state representatives or from backbenchers in Congress. And while leaders will tacitly be for it, they won't openly endorse it. But here comes Scott Walker saying we have got to drug test people on food stamps and unemployment insurance. A wrinkle with this is that states don't have the authority to do that under federal law. Yeah.
The wrinkle is that it's illegal, right? And it makes no sense.
So at first, during the campaign, Scott Walker was like, I will fight Obama over my right to make people on food stamps pee in cups to prove they're not on drugs. But then, after the election, he said, well, we're going to ask permission.
Yeah, probably.
So as someone who enjoys fights and controversy, this was a little disappointing. But I think it doesn't really matter exactly the details of a drug testing proposal. At least half of the reason for talking about it is just to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because it sends a signal that you're going to clamp down on welfare.
It's going to work pretty weird if one of these, states ends up with legalized marijuana, and not only will people be able to buy it, but maybe they'll put it in their grocery cart, and people will look at it then.
I will look at it.
That will start a major firestorm in one of our. Thank you, Arthur.
Thank you.
It's good for you to be here. The high school I went to is down the street from Arthur's high school in Northwest Washington.
Sharks and Jets.
Which is why I brought it up. So now you know. Follow him on Twitter at Arthur Delaney at HP. He, of course, writes for the Huffington Post. Thanks for being here again.
Please do follow me on Twitter. I'm dying for more followers.
I'm Clayton Yates. This is the Bill Press Show. We'll be back.
Okay, friends, hey, we need your attention here and need your help. Yep, it's that time again, our pledge drive for Free Speech TV, but it is so important. We say often on the show that this is like a two-way street. Well, it is in more than one way. I mean, one way is every day we'll tell you what's going on here in Washington, D.C., around the country, around the globe. We'll bring you up to date on all the latest news, and then we open up the phones, we open up the social media sites so you can tell us. That's the two-way street. We tell you what's going on. You tell us what you think about it, what it means to you, what it means to your family, what it means to your community, and whether you think this is good or bad for America. That's one way we're a two-way street. We're also a two-way street in a couple of times a year. We not only continue to bring you the best show, the best broadcasting, the best insights, the best commentary, the best guests, the best analysis that we can every day, but we turn to you to help us keep this great network, Free Speech TV, on the air. It is one of its kind. You don't find this anywhere else, and believe me, I've worked at ABC and MSNBC and CNN and a couple of other networks. This Free Speech TV is the only truly free and independent and uncensored and fearless cable television network out there. But without any government support, any corporate support, we depend on you to keep free speech going. So we ask you again, please be as generous as you can and do it today. We need to make at least $1,000 every day from our pledge drive to keep free speech going and to keep this show going. If you can help us with $60 a week, tell you what, we'll send you $60 a year. That's $5 a month. Send you a Free Speech TV travel mug for $120 a year. That's just $10 a month. Send you that Free Speech travel mug and a Free Speech TV T-shirt for $240 a year, $20 a month. A great gift. A Bill Press Show mug, and then a copy, a box of gifts from Africa. It's called the Equal Exchange African Gift Box, which includes a pound of coffee, some shea butter soap, a bangle bracelet, and peppermint limb balm, among other objects in this exciting Equal Exchange African Gift Box. For $360 a year or $30 a month, how about this? A Free Speech TV mug, 2 Bill Press mugs, and that African gift box. And if you can manage to help Free Speech TV with $1,000, you make your way to Washington, and Carol and I will take you out to dinner, and then you come into the studio the next morning and meet all of our team and enjoy the show. Make your pledge today as generously as you can by phone at 877-378-8669 or online at freespeechtv.org. Thank you for your help.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
My name is Clinton Yates. I'm filling in for Bill here on a Tuesday. We've got what I would like to call not quite a scooplet of a story, but something that was actually reported by, I want to say, a guy at Gawker some 2 years ago that's now sort of blowing up a little bit more because I guess the State Department acknowledged that it's a real thing, which is that Hillary Clinton, when she was Secretary of State, was just using her personal email for government business. I mean, I sort of laugh because it almost sounds ridiculous that that's even possible.
I don't know how you do that.
And it's now just sort of bubbling up as a larger story that doesn't exactly bode well for the belief of transparency or anything like that. Now, mind you, what's to be understood about this story, and I guarantee you we'll be talking about this more tomorrow. That's a tease. But the rules changed in this game. It was, so for example, when Colin Powell was doing this, or, guys like him, they use their personal email all the time. This is not something that sort of has been on the books forever. The rules have changed for good reason, though, is because if you are a government official, depending on what your job is, your files should be searchable by, the public and the media and Senate subcommittees and all whoever else. If this turns out to be true, what do you think this does for her potential campaign situation in terms of what people think about her ability to be transparent?
I'm not sure how it's going to play if this turns out to be true, because I do think that people are going to have knives out no matter what. But this is a real issue, and she's going to have a good answer as to why that was going on, if in fact it was going on.
Yeah, those memes of Hillary answering her phone on the plane are suddenly a lot funnier. Yes, that is her personal email. I'm Clinton Yates. I'm filling in for Bill Press. We'll be right back.
This is The Bill Press Show.
Okay, friends, hey, we need your attention here and need your help. Yep, it's that time again, our pledge drive for Free Speech TV, but it is so, so important. We say often on the show that this is like a two-way street. Well, it is in more than one way. One way is every day we'll tell you what's going on here in Washington, D.C., around the country, around the globe. We'll bring you up to date on all the latest news. And then we open up the phones. We open up the social media sites so you can tell us. That's the two-way street. We tell you what's going on. You tell us what you think about it, what it means to you, what it means to your family, what it means to your community, and whether you think this is good or bad for America. That's one way we're a two-way street. We're also a two-way street in a couple of times a year. We not only continue to bring you the best show, the best broadcasting, the best insights, the best commentary, the best guests, the best analysis that we can every day, but we turn to you to help us keep this great network, Free Speech TV, on the air. It is one of its kind. You don't find this anywhere else. And believe me, I've worked at ABC and MSNBC and CNN and a couple of other networks. This Free Speech TV is the only truly free and independent and uncensored and fearless cable television network out there. but without any government support, any corporate support, we depend on you to keep free speech going. So we ask you again, please be as generous as you can and do it today. We need to make at least $1,000 every day from our pledge drive to keep free speech going and to keep this show going. If you can help us with $60 a week, tell you what, we'll send you $60 a year. That's $5 a month. Send you a Free Speech TV travel mug for $120 a year. That's just $10 a month. Send you that Free Speech travel mug and a Free Speech TV T-shirt for $240 a year, $20 a month. A great, great gift. A Bill Press Show mug, and then a copy, a box of gifts from Africa. It's called the Equal Exchange African Gift Box, which includes a pound of coffee, some shea butter soap, a bangle bracelet, and peppermint limb balm, among other objects in this exciting Equal Exchange African Gift Box for $360 a year or $30 a month. How about this? A Free Speech TV mug, 2 Bill Press mugs, and that African gift box. And if you can manage to help Free Speech TV with $1,000, you make your way to Washington, and Carol and I will take you out to dinner, and then you come into the studio the next morning and meet all of our team and enjoy the show. Make your pledge today as generously as you can by phone at 877-378-8669 or online at freespeechtv.org. Thank you for your help.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
my beauty,
my power,
my life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Welcome back to the program. It's me, Clinton Yates. I'm a columnist at the Washington Post. I'm filling in for Bill Press here. It's Tuesday, March 3rd. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. If you are watching us on YouTube at TawkrTV, or if you're listening to us on either the iHeartRadio or the TuneIn app, or anywhere on one of your local progressive stations, I really do appreciate that. You can check us out at Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show, or on the Twitter box at BP Show. Peter Ogburns here. What's up, Peter?
Clinton, happy Tuesday, man.
Happy Tuesday to you, too. Across the glass is, of course, Elisa Murphy. How are you, Elisa?
Hey, good morning. Good to be here.
On the phones is Alicia Cruz. If you give us a call at 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. Cyprian Bolden is making us look good. And, of course, Igor Volsky's here.
Good morning.
How are you, Igor?
Good. Happy to be here with you.
Thank you. Glad
Good
to
to
be
see
here.
you.
I want to get a couple quick things out of the way. Of course, there's some small news locally and I guess nationally. Senator Barbara Mikulski announcing that she will not be running for re-election in Maryland. She is pretty popular around these parts, but a very well-known politician. Have you ever seen her?
I have seen her.
Yeah.
She's
short.
She's
Yeah.
She's like 5 foot.
She's very short.
Maybe.
Maybe on a good day.
Yeah, on a
and
good day.
full of spunk. Mikulski is I guess it's fair to say she's popular.
In Maryland.
In Maryland, yeah.
You know what's funny is I got a couple of emails from people who we work with who live in Maryland, grew up in Maryland, some people we know in Baltimore. They've known nobody else than Barbara Mikulski.
Right.
That has been their senator for their
5 terms.
entire life.
Right. That's a long time.
And so she's legend in Maryland.
Creates a pretty big power vacuum in the Free State, but we got some sound from what she said about it yesterday.
I had to decide how I would spend my time, fighting for my job or fighting for their job. Do I spend my time raising money or do I spend my time raising hell?
That's a pretty quintessential Mikulski quote right there.
That sums her up pretty well.
I'm going to read another couple things here from a Washington Post story about sort of some of her best. This is a great headline, by the way, in the Post Express. Mikulski's best barbs. Zing. In 1979, then Representative Mikulski introduced Senator Ted Kennedy, at a fundraiser for the Equal Rights Amendment. According to a 1980 Washington Post article, after recounting all the similarities between herself and Kennedy, she noted, quote, "Our fathers were both entrepreneurs. My father owned a small grocery store. Your father owned Boston." That's a great line. And another one from 1992 in the Post, Mikulski's reaction to the press calling 1992 the year of the woman because a historic number of women had been elected to the Senate. She said, quote, "Calling 1992 the year of the woman makes it sound like the year of the caribou or the year of the asparagus. We're not a fad, a fancy, or a year."
That's great.
It's a great line from Mikulski, whose time in office will be missed, but she has been quite a public servant to America. Got a lot to get to here with managing editor for Think Progress, Igor Volsky, but first,
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Did you know that in South Korea it was illegal to have an affair?
No.
That law has been repealed.
Finally.
But
freedom.
In South Korea, if you got caught having an affair, you could go to jail for up to 2 years. Wow. And according to reports of Korean media, more than 50,000 South Koreans had been convicted for cheating on their spouses, and 35,000 were sentenced to jail time. Now, again, that law was repealed last week, and stock of South Korean latex products manufacturer Unitas Corp climbed 15%, the daily maximum on Korea's exchange after the court announced it.
Wow, what do you think those legislative hearings were like?
I don't know. I just know our prisons are way too overcrowded for that kind of law.
That's right.
Could you imagine what would happen?
Yeah, you'd have
just burst at the seams.
You'd have to build 5 times as many prisons. Wow.
Today's the day. It's free pancake day at IHOP.
Oh, really?
It's you go to an IHOP today, you walk in, and they will give you a free short stack of 3 buttermilk pancakes at all of their locations. The only thing that they ask is that you consider making a donation to the Children's Miracle Network Hospital or another designated local charity. Their goal is to raise $3.5 million
Okay.
So if
That
you
seems like a low goal. There's a lot of
for
IHOPs.
all of the
around.
IHOPs, yeah, it seems a little low.
I think to be able to make that.
I also think that maybe they're underestimating, like, if you're coming in for free pancakes, that you're going to drop some money on the charity.
Yeah, they're just being realistic.
That's probably true.
Maybe.
They give you a free short stack of pancakes with everything, though. Like that's the problem at IHOP is that you're too busy trying to eat pancakes all the time.
I went on a road
but some of
trip
their other food is pretty good.
a couple years ago with a friend of mine who like grew up and lived in New York City his whole life, and we went on a road trip. We ate at an IHOP, and he said, "You know what? I never understood the obesity epidemic in America until right now.
Yo,
man,
because everything comes with pancakes.
Every single thing.
Doesn't matter what you get.
You order pancakes, they come with side pancakes.
They come with side pancakes.
It's ridiculous, and you're like, I mean, I understand this is the international house, but this is doing a bit much.
Yeah. And the internet is freaking out because Mumford & Sons, the band, announced that they are getting rid of their banjos, getting rid of their acoustic guitars. They're going to be playing electric guitars and synthesizers on the upcoming third studio album that they're going to work on. No more of this bluegrass. I don't listen to Mumford & Sons.
First of all, you're lying.
I'm impressed that you know who
I
they
don't listen to
are.
Mumford & Sons. I know who Mumford & Sons. I know who they are.
Okay.
And I know they got the
they got the campfire music
I
going.
couldn't name
That's
a
what-
Mumford & Sons song.
I couldn't either.
I couldn't. But I know of their shtick.
Right.
They wear suspenders, and they've got
like
and they wear
old-timey
flannel,
goo-
and they
right.
look like a bunch of Civil War reenactors.
Basically, yeah.
So they're giving up their banjos and their acoustic guitars. They can use synthesizers and electric.
Hey, nothing wrong with a new sound.
Look,
that's what I
best of
say.
luck.
You got to grow as an artist.
Tell me how New Coke did.
Oh,
Yeah, that
Wow.
sounds like that band's about to break up.
That is
what
it.
that sounds like.
It really does.
That's what's going on there. Mumford no longer with Sons.
That's right.
All right, we've got Igor Volsky here in studio again.
I'm a little offended. You thought I listened to Mumford & Sons. Like, I'm kind of taking that personally.
You know, last week you didn't know there'd be any Beyonce songs. Now it's my goodness.
I don't know why I just slotted them in your wheelhouse. I
Really?
just assumed
You thought I was
that
a Mumford & Sons guy.
I wouldn't necessarily say you were a
They have
Mumford
some
&
good
Sons
songs,
guy,
people.
but
My God,
Right.
you're elitist music. Fanatics,
kids, you listen
okay.
to family. I mean, I feel like that's the
appreciate
kind of
the popular American music that other Americans listen to.
fair. I just figured
Yeah.
that's maybe the kind of song you'd listen to with your
Ridiculous.
kids in the car when you're going on your hiking trips or whatever. You know what I mean?
No.
I don't know.
We
Maybe
use
I'm
the
wrong.
Sabbath when we do that.
Oh, God.
Okay, let us get
My
back
God.
to reality here and talk about, something that has been relatively controversial in the halls of Congress, which is that Benjamin Netanyahu, Bibi, is going to
Bibi.
address Congress later today. What's he going to talk about?
In just 4 hours,
Yeah.
Bibi Netanyahu
Exactly.
will be delivering the most anticipated speech here in D.C. You know, this all came about after Speaker Boehner invited Netanyahu, without consulting the White House,
Right.
to address the Congress on these nuclear negotiations that the United States is leading with Iran. It all came about after the United States and other major world powers decided, look, if we can solve the Iranian question diplomatically and figure out how to contain their nuclear ambitions, then this will be a major breakthrough for the world and a breakthrough for an issue that's been kind of plaguing the world for the last 35, 40 years.
Right.
How do you limit Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon? And how do you stop any kind of arms race in that region? Now, Israel, Netanyahu specifically, have been very against any kind of diplomatic talk because they fear that a diplomatic solution would recognize Iran's ability to have any nuclear capability at all, much less one for nuclear weapons. And so the United States is saying, look, Iran already has nuclear capability. A lot of it came about under the watchful eye of President George W. Bush. They can't get rid of it entirely, so let's figure out a way to ensure that they can never have enough nuclear materials to build a nuclear weapon. That's what these negotiations are about. And on the other hand, you have Benjamin Netanyahu, the Likud party in Israel, that are saying if Iran even has a hint of any kind of centrifuges, spins those centrifuges, we're in a lot of danger. The very survival, they say, of Israel is in danger. And that's the message he's going to take to Congress today, that you can't accept any deal that acknowledges any Iranian nuclear capability. They have to get rid of it all, and only then can you have any kind of conversation about integrating them into the world
So
community.
he's playing hardball.
He is, very much so.
What is the precedent for this type of thing without having consulted the White House? I mean, at the time it was considered not just a breach, it was sort of considered sort of a breach of decorum. You know what I mean? Which is but is there any sort of precedent for this kind of thing happening, and how has that affected the overall way that people look at this speech in general?
Certainly not in modern times. Always these kinds of things went through the White House. Boehner did a roundabout in the White House. I think in this case really reacted very strongly that now this speech is the hottest ticket in town. Everybody wants to know what Netanyahu's going to say because the White House really elevated it and said, wink, wink, nod, nod. Democrats shouldn't go to this speech. They're hosting a trade meeting actually at the same time that Netanyahu is giving his speech.
Counter-programming.
Some counter-programming. And it really kind of gave him an even larger platform from which to speak. But yes, I mean, you'd imagine what would happen if, for instance, during the Iraq conflict, the Democrats invited the French president to address Congress and criticize Bush. I mean, there'd be all kinds of craziness going on. But here, it's not so much the content of the speech. We know what Netanyahu's going to say. He's been saying it for years. It's really this great kind of house of Cardsian drama about here's Netanyahu. Is he rebuking the president? Is he not? And really that dynamic between the two of them.
We've got a quote from Netanyahu talking about how the U.S. relationship with Israel is one of family. And I basically want to hear this because he says my favorite Yiddish word of all time.
Israel and the United States will continue to stand together because America and Israel are more than friends. We're like a family. We're practically mishpucha.
There it is. What do you think the relationship is with the Obama administration and Israel?
At the highest levels, it has certainly eroded a lot, partly because Israel and Netanyahu specifically and his government have been leaking information about the nuclear negotiations to the press, and there's some fear he's going to do that this morning when he addresses Congress. The United States kind of has shut down any kind of detailed briefings that Israel and Israeli officials have been getting for fear that it would kind of undermine the talks. That's why you have all these details floating out there. Is Iran only going to be contained for 10 years when American officials had been saying 20? Is this kind of a big give from Obama? Is Obama so content on getting a nuclear deal he's kind of giving everything away? And so I think at the highest level it has eroded a lot. But certainly you saw the UN ambassador Samantha Power, the Susan Rice, the president's national security advisor, both addressed APAC, which is where Netanyahu made those remarks. And they went to great lengths to kind of paint the close relationship that America still has with Israel. And certainly if you look at it issue by issue, from providing arms to Israel to defending Israel before the United Nations, America and Israel are still very, very close. What's interesting, though, I think, Clinton, is that this rift has created some space, I think, for criticism of Israeli policy, which you rarely hear in the United States. But it's kind of more okay now to say I don't fully agree with Netanyahu, or I don't fully agree with the way what he's doing with the settlements, for instance. And that, I think, if that stands outside of this event, that I think is going to be a change in American discourse.
He's got an election coming up, but he's got a speech coming up. It's going to be a hot ticket on C-SPAN, Peter. You tuning in? 11 a.m.?
Yeah.
I'm watching and live tweeting.
Live tweeting.
At Igor Volsky.
At Igor Volsky.
Don't miss it.
That was expert level tease right there.
I'm not going to live tweet it.
You'll just read my tweets.
That's it.
You don't need to. Please.
Verified,
Yeah.
I already told you how I feel.
I'm kidding. All right. Well, we're talking with Igor Volsky, the managing editor at Think Progress. When we get back, we're going to talk a little bit about Islamic State and what they're doing. Because apparently they're big enough to get on Saturday Night Live's radar now. I'm Clinton Yates. We'll be back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, friends, hey, we need your attention here and need your help. Yep, it's that time again, our pledge drive for Free Speech TV, but it is so important. We say often on the show that this is like a two-way street. Well, it is in more than one way. I mean, one way is every day we'll tell you what's going on here in Washington, D.C., around the country, around the globe. We'll bring you up to date on all the latest news. And then we open up the phones. We open up the social media sites so you can tell us. That's the two-way street. We tell you what's going on. You tell us what you think about it, what it means to you, what it means to your family, what it means to your community, and whether you think this is good or bad for America. That's one way we're a two-way street. We're also a two-way street in a couple of times a year. We not only continue to bring you the best show, the best broadcasting, the best insights, the best commentary, the best guests, the best analysis that we can every day, but we turn to you to help us keep this great network, Free Speech TV, on the air. It is one of its kind. You don't find this anywhere else, and believe me, I've worked at ABC and MSNBC and CNN and a couple of other networks. This Free Speech TV is the only truly free and independent and uncensored and fearless cable television network out there. But without any government support, any corporate support, we depend on you to keep free speech going. So we ask you again, please be as generous as you can and do it today. We need to make at least $1,000 every day from our pledge drive to keep free speech going and to keep this show going. If you can help us with $60 a week, tell you what, we'll send you $60 a year. That's $5 a month. Send you a Free Speech TV travel mug for $120 a year. That's just $10 a month. Send you that Free Speech travel mug and a Free Speech TV T-shirt for $240 a year, $20 a month. A great, great gift. A Bill Press Show mug, and then a copy, a box of gifts from Africa. It's called the Equal Exchange African Gift Box, which includes a pound of coffee, some shea butter soap, a bangle bracelet, and peppermint limb balm, among other objects in this exciting Equal Exchange African Gift Box for $360 a year or $30 a month. How about this? A Free Speech TV mug, 2 Bill Press mugs, and that African gift box. And if you can manage to help Free Speech TV with $1,000, you make your way to Washington, and Carol and I will take you out to dinner, and then you come into the studio the next morning and meet all of our team and enjoy the show. Make your pledge today as generously as you can by phone at 877-378-8669 or online at freespeechtv.org. Thank you for your help.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
My name is Clinton Yates. I'm a columnist at the Washington Post. I want to thank you all for tuning in. In studio with us right now is, of course, Igor Volsky of Think Progress. Good morning, Igor.
Good morning.
We've been talking about Netanyahu. We want to switch gears a little bit to ISIS, Islamic State, ISIL, whatever you want to call it. What exactly is the protocol for...
The White House is going with ISIL. They're going with ISIL.
What are you guys doing with
We're doing ISIS.
Bill is ISIS. ISIS camp.
Okay, I guess
there's also the IS, just the Islamic State, and then there's the Arabic term, which I've now forgotten, that starts with a D.
Daesh.
Yeah,
it's like dash.
That. Yeah,
that's totally off my radar.
Yeah.
Wow,
that's in the region. That's how
they got a bit of a branding issue over there. So, I guess my thing with this whole sort of terrorist group concern is that, and I wonder this, and I want to go to this audio here. Chuck Schumer mentioned something about this in relation to DHS And it's kind of a weird comment because what people really know about this group is not much. Let's go to Schumer.
ISIS isn't funded a week at a time. Al-Shabaab isn't funded a week at a time. The Department of Homeland Security shouldn't be either.
Now, first of all, how does he know anything like that? And I just wonder what the average American's view of what ISIS even is really is. The funding of DHS aside, what do you think the average person feels about what? And I mentioned this because of the thing we talked about earlier. They're getting spoofed on Saturday Night Live and stuff like that. I mean, what is it, to you, the average view of this terrorist group is what?
The average view, I think, is a slick, fairly active group. You look at what they put out on social media. You look at the beheading videos that are produced like mini documentaries in great dramatic fashion. I think people look at that and say, this kind of thing costs money. And if they're making advances at the same time that they have an amazing... I mean, they might have a branding issue, but they certainly don't have an image issue. I mean, they know who they are. They attract a certain kind of person. And the fact that they're able to kind of work on all fronts and create a presence for them that other terrorist groups have never been able to, I think it's kind of a scary proposition to the public.
So to me, it's kind of like, what happens next, right? Like with
ISIS?
With ISIS, yeah.
Well, I mean, who knows? Now there's splinter groups all over the place. People aligning themselves with ISIS, even though they're not part of the central group. And that's really the beauty from their point of view, is that they can kind of call on different people in the region who are
one place, another place.
Yes, and they don't need to control those people, but they get credit for any kind of attacks that they carry out in different parts of the world. So I think for them, it's only a growth strategy, especially if they hold the land that they currently dominate. The expansion really takes care of itself because people want to align themselves with this group because it's successful and it's building the kind of caliphate that they're espousing.
I, for the life of me, and we've talked about this many times, I know we've talked about it with you, is I just can't figure out the draw. I can't figure out the appeal that it has to people. There are young women who are leaving their country to go and join ISIS.
It's political. It offers political strength at a time where the governments in the region are kind of in shambles.
There's a word for it, Peter. It's called bloodlust. Don't ever underestimate that when it comes to the human mind. It's frightening.
Yikes.
Igor Volsky, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
He's putting his watch back on.
Well, gotta go now.
All right, I'm playing Yates. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, friends, hey, we need your attention here and need your help. Yep, it's that time again, our pledge drive for Free Speech TV, but it is so, so important. We say often on the show that this is like a two-way street. Well, it is in more than one way. I mean, one way is every day we'll tell you what's going on here in Washington, D.C., around the country, around the globe. We'll bring you up to date on all the latest news, and then we open up the phones, we open up the social media sites so you can tell us. That's the two-way street. We tell you what's going on. You tell us what you think about it, what it means to you, what it means to your family, what it means to your community, and whether you think this is good or bad for America. That's one way we're a two-way street. We're also a two-way street in a couple of times a year. We not only continue to bring you the best show, the best broadcasting, the best insights, the best commentary, the best guests, the best analysis that we can every day, but we turn to you to help us keep this great network, Free Speech TV, on the air. It is one of its kind. You don't find this anywhere else, and believe me, I've worked at ABC and MSNBC and CNN and a couple of other networks. This Free Speech TV is the only truly free and independent and uncensored and fearless cable television network out there. But without any government support, any corporate support, we depend on you to keep free speech going. So we ask you again, please be as generous as you can and do it today. We need to make at least $1,000 every day from our pledge drive to keep free speech going and to keep this show going. If you can help us with $60 a week, tell you what, we'll send you $60 a year. That's $5 a month. Send you a Free Speech TV travel mug for $120 a year. That's just $10 a month. Send you that Free Speech travel mug and a Free Speech TV T-shirt for $240 a year, $20 a month. A great, great gift. A Bill Press Show mug, and then a copy, a box of gifts from Africa. It's called the Equal Exchange African Gift Box, which includes a pound of coffee, some shea butter soap, a bangle bracelet, and peppermint limb balm, among other objects in this exciting Equal Exchange African Gift Box for $360 a year or $30 a month. How about this? A Free Speech TV mug, 2 Bill Press mugs, and that African gift box. And if you can manage to help Free Speech TV with $1,000, you make your way to Washington, and Carol and I will take you out to dinner, and then you come into the studio the next morning and meet all of our team and enjoy the show. Make your pledge today as generously as you can by phone at 877-378-8669 or online at freespeechtv.org. Thank you for your help.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies in Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
And my name is Clinton Yates. I'm a columnist of the Washington Post, filling in for Bill Press. I want to thank you all for tuning in and turning up on a Tuesday. On the line, we have fellow from National Journal, Priscilla Alvarez. Hello, Priscilla.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. So let's talk about it. The weeds. This is what, that's the new thing going around on the streets, as Peter likes to say. Let me ask you this, though. The District of Columbia just legalized this in sort of a, kind of a willy-nilly way, as some people would put it. How do D.C.'s pot laws compare with some of the other legalization efforts around the nation in different states?
Sure. So some of the other states that have legalized recreational marijuana are Alaska, Washington, and Colorado, and soon to be Oregon. And they do vary state by state and in a variety of ways. And the first one of those could simply be how much you can have, so the possession. So, for example, in Alaska, you can have 6 plants versus the 6 plants you have here. You'll also, in Oregon, see 4 plants that you can have in your possession, which is a little bit less. But something else that's particularly interesting about D.C. is they haven't legalized the sale tax or regulation of marijuana, whereas in Alaska, for example, they do allow, for example, the sale of drug paraphernalia, and you'll see something similar in Washington and Colorado. Colorado specifically, that does allow the sale of marijuana. So they do vary state by state, and it'll be interesting to see how D.C. moves forward with this, because that is a sort of very important part that they're looking at is how do you legalize the sale tax or regulation of marijuana in the district?
It seems to me like the model in Colorado has been fairly successful for them. They're making a lot of money off the sale of marijuana. Yes. So my question is, why aren't more people just copying that? Because the one that we have in D.C. is so confusing And as you mentioned, there's no real tax benefit to it. So why aren't more people just looking at what Colorado is doing and going with that?
Well, you have a point there, and that is something that is interesting. There's a lot of talk about the decriminalization of marijuana, but the economic value is important as well. And they are getting a lot on taxes in Colorado. You're correct about that, and they do want to kind of get people off of the black market. So you're right. DC, I think they're looking into that. Something that's really special or unique about DC is that they do get over $7 billion in local tax revenue, but their spending decisions with that money are subject to being overridden by Congress through the federal budget process. So that was sort of the issue what happened during the 30-day legislative review period for this to take effect, was that, Republicans in Congress were sort of blocking the initiative by adding a rider to a spending bill that would bar the district from enacting any law to legalize pot. So sort of having those conversations at the congressional level is where that's sort of happening. And again, it varies state by state, and we'll sort of see how it plays out. But you are correct in saying Colorado is doing pretty well economically thanks to, the sale of marijuana right now.
So for that reason, Jason Chaffetz out of Utah is sort of public enemy number one here in D.C. because this guy has been writing letters to the mayor, talking about how it's possible that people go to jail and so on and so forth. What do you think the chances are that the Justice Department actually gets involved in this?
I don't think the chances are very high. After this took effect on Thursday, the water sort of calmed down a little bit. You're right. Representative Jason Chaffetz has been the biggest opponent. He wrote a letter to D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser saying that the measure was contrary to law. Now, the Justice Department, if they do decide to intervene, chances are that they would, try to prosecute under the Anti-Deficiency Act, which imposes criminal penalties on government employees who knowingly spend public funds in excess of their appropriated budgets. Now, whether or not they'll get involved is a different question, and that also depends on, we have Loretta Lynch, Obama's Attorney General nominee, and if she gets confirmed, she's already said that she is against the legalization of marijuana, which is something contrary to what we had with Attorney General Eric Holder, who was sort of pushing for the rescheduling of marijuana in Congress. So, the chances of them intervening, I think, are less likely. We'll see what happens.
It's something I actually wanted to ask you about the Attorney General, because her stated stance on the legalization of marijuana is a lot different, and it's kind of one of these things where Colorado and Washington and Alaska have just kind of been operating without the interference. I mean, what they're doing is not legal. There is a law, a federal law against it. They're just choosing not to enforce it. So do you see any way that there's going to be a change from the administration? Not necessarily from Congress and other members of Congress who want to see it taken away, but from the administration on how they choose to let these states get away with it?
I think, we've already seen quite a shift with the Obama administration. And Obama recently, after the State of the Union, in one of his YouTube interviews, actually said that, the administration wasn't really going to spend a lot of resources trying to turn back decisions that have been made at the state level on the issue. Recently the Surgeon General also sort of talked more about medical marijuana, but nonetheless, just looking into the data and the interest in what will be done to create a federal framework for legalizing marijuana. So I think that we're seeing a shift, and this is happening at the state level, but I do see the possibility of a federal framework sort of in the talks as the Obama administration sort of does see this as possibly a public health issue. Again, that's strictly medical, so recreational may be different, but there's certainly been a shift in how the administration has taken this.
I'd just like to take this time to point out a funny story about marijuana coming out of Utah, which is that they are considering allowing edibles to be used to be treated, and I will read from this story.
Yeah.
If the bill passes, the state's wildlife may be basically high all the time, according to testimony presented to a Utah Senate panel last week by an agent of the DEA. Special Agent Matt Fairbanks said that at some illegal pot grow sites, he saw, quote, rabbits that had cultivated a taste for the marijuana. One of them refused to leave us, and we took all the marijuana around him, but his natural instinct to run was somehow gone, end quote, which is just an awesome story, that's really all I have to say about that.
I hope that's true.
I really do, too. Anyway, so, Priscilla, what do you think comes next in terms of, I don't know, where this goes with D.C. and legalization, or I guess the sale would be the next potential step, sale and taxation?
Right.
Yeah, that's definitely the next step, and then we'll sort of see how that plays out. So far, it's been going pretty well in the district. I think hours after it took effect, there weren't any arrests yet, because there could still be arrests for selling, right? So we'll see what happens there. I think around the country, though, we are going to see that change in attitude. There are quite a few states that have ongoing legislation and expect legislation in the 2016 ballot for the legalization of recreational marijuana. So I think everyone's sort of watching Colorado, Washington, Alaska, sort of seeing how they're doing it. And I think, in the next, we'll see a big push across the country to not only legalize medical marijuana, which has happened in several states, but legalize recreational marijuana.
Thank you, Priscilla.
Thank you.
That is Priscilla Alvarez of National Journal talking about the situation with marijuana. When we get back, I will tell you another thing I did over the weekend that involved marijuana.
Oh, nice.
For work. Journalizing. It's what I do. I'm Clinton Yates. I'm a columnist for the Washington Post. This is The Bill Press Show.
Okay, friends, hey, we need your attention here and need your help. Yep, it's that time again, our pledge drive for Free Speech TV, but it is so, so important. We say often on the show that this is like a two-way street. Well, it is in more than one way. I mean, one way is every day we'll tell you what's going on here in Washington, D.C., around the country, around the globe. We'll bring you up to date on all the latest news, and then we open up the phones, we open up the social media sites so you can tell us. That's the two-way street. We tell you what's going on. You tell us what you think about it, what it means to you, what it means to your family, what it means to your community, and whether you think this is good or bad for America. That's one way we're a two-way street. We're also a two-way street in a couple of times a year. We not only continue to bring you the best show, the best broadcasting, the best insights, the best commentary, the best guests, the best analysis that we can every day, but we turn to you to help us keep this great network, Free Speech TV, on the air. It is one of its kind. You don't find this anywhere else, and believe me, I've worked at ABC and MSNBC and CNN and a couple of other networks. This Free Speech TV is the only truly free and independent and uncensored and fearless cable television network out there. But without any government support, any corporate support, we depend on you to keep free speech going. So we ask you again, please be as generous as you can and do it today. We need to make at least $1,000 every day from our pledge drive to keep free speech going and to keep this show going. If you can help us with $60 a week, tell you what, we'll send you $60 a year. That's $5 a month. Send you a Free Speech TV travel mug for $120 a year. That's just $10 a month. Send you that Free Speech travel mug and a Free Speech TV T-shirt for $240 a year, $20 a month. A great, great gift. A Bill Press Show mug, and then a box of gifts from Africa. It's called the Equal Exchange African Gift Box, which includes a pound of coffee, some shea butter soap, a bangle bracelet, and peppermint limb balm, among other objects in this exciting Equal Exchange African Gift Box for $360 a year or $30 a month. How about this? A Free Speech TV mug, 2 Bill Press mugs, and that African gift box. And if you can manage to help Free Speech TV with $1,000, you make your way to Washington, and Carol and I will take you out to dinner, and then you come into the studio the next morning and meet all of our team and enjoy the show. Make your pledge today as generously as you can. by phone at 877-378-8669 or online at freespeechtv.org. Thank you for your help.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Welcome back to the program. My name's Clinton Yates, filling in for Bill Press here on a Tuesday. We were just talking about the situation with medical, recreational, adult use, whatever you want to call it, marijuana around the country. Over the weekend, I went to a little event called the Comfy Tree Cannabis Convention. It was at the it was at a hotel here in DC down by L'Enfant Plaza, and it was like 2 days full of talks and workshops as well as an expo about different things related to the marijuana business. Now, of course, this was perfectly timed because the legalization effort had just taken effect in the city some 2 days prior. So there was a lot of jubilation, if you will, around
party atmosphere
around this. Well, here's the thing, though, and this is why it was interesting, is that it wasn't necessarily that it was a party atmosphere, but you could tell that the attitudes there were a lot more relaxed than they might have been if it hadn't specifically gone through beforehand.
Yeah.
Now, I sat through one discussion, which was basically a lot of people asking, how do I get in on this business? Where they were asking, like, people who were already growers in the city, and all the growers were like, you're a little late, you know what I'm saying? This is why we're on this side of the stage,
right?
And you're on that side of the stage, which was pretty funny. But there were some interesting outlooks that people had. Basically, I think a lot of people, from what I saw and people I talked to, they want to get into it for the purposes of basically, let's just say, being able to sell to, like, your friends. You know, I don't think anybody's trying to get big. Not anybody. I mean, most of these people there were not necessarily trying to get large grow operations or whatever, but they've got a social network and they probably want to figure out how to grow just enough they can, you know, make good stuff and sell it to their friends, which is pretty much all you need to do to turn a little cash in this scenario. But the expo.
I'm fascinated by
The expo was fascinating because there were all sorts of products.
It is a crazy business.
It's unreal. You got first of all, you got your standard head shops, you know, who are just selling glass, vaporizers, you know, things to use. You got like security agencies, you know, how to keep your stash protected with all sorts of camera setups. You've got your grow light people who have got the latest and greatest in, you know, the electronics of the scenario. You've got your venture capitalists who fund your operations if you are trying to start a dispensary. You need a little money to hire a security force? Boom, you can go to them for funding. It's funding specifically designed for marijuana-related industries and their byproducts. I was like,
what a time to be alive.
What? Yeah. I'm looking at this stuff like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, people are up there in suits selling legitimate business products. And listen, I understand it's an industry. I mean, the stigmas that are around marijuana usage those fall on deaf ears for me, but I had never imagined that I would see such a sophisticated approach to the business side of marijuana so quickly in the district. And there still weren't that many people there, Peter. I mean, we're talking about a room that was, I mean, yeah, it was a ballroom or a conference room in a hotel. But I imagine that by next year, they're going to have to blow this bad boy out into something way bigger because that's not going to hold if these businesses really take off the way I think they are.
It has moved so fast. Just the dropping of the stigma around using marijuana, right? Like, what, in the last 4 years, maybe? And around this dropping of the stigma where professional people are kind of saying, you know, yeah, I smoke pot.
Yeah.
Smoke pot daily. I care about what I smoke. It's not just people who've had
stoner bras.
Yeah, like stoner dudes are like guys who've had the same stash kicking around their sock drawer for a couple of years that when the wife goes out of town, they'll hit that up.
They spark that.
And they don't even know what it is. You know, like people know what strains they're smoking. They smoke to get a certain effect. And this whole industry just jumped up around it.
Out of nowhere.
People care, and they have the money to spend on it.
I've got a column coming out about this later today, but little preview is that looking at the people that were there was interesting. Like I said, if I was tweeting it while I was there, and what I wrote at one point was the dudes just walking around blazed quotient was only at about like 30 to 35%. It wasn't like people were in there all whacked out and baked. That wasn't what was going on. People were in there trying to find legitimate business opportunities or get jobs themselves. Yeah. So they weren't necessarily just stoned. However, I did run into a family, operative words here, mom, dad, daughter, just looking at wares, checking out stuff, and I had to talk to them. I was like, what's going on, And they were like, look, we're a family. We smoke together, They lived in Fairfax County, and they were just kind of like, our daughter turned 18. We knew she smokes. We were sort of at first, and now after dinner, this is what we do. And I was just like,
talk about a modern family.
Okay, and they weren't, it wasn't like these were, hippies walking around in parachute pants or anything. I mean, these were just regular folks, and they were like, hey, look, our neighbors don't necessarily know. We don't like talk about it outside of the family, but yeah, they were like, we got another teenage son. He's not allowed to partake, just like he wouldn't be if we were drinking beer in the house. That's just not what we're going to allow. Turn 18, different matter. And it was fascinating to hear them talk about what their choices were as parents and how they went about it with their daughter, who was over the moon about it, by the way.
Yeah.
But she was pretty chill. And it was just a really interesting look at where this industry is going. It's just that a lot of people really are in this for money. That's really what this is all about, because people smoke enough that, as you mentioned, they got the money to spend, and the real capitalization is going to come in on that, not just being able to be high without feeling that you're not going to go to jail. I kind of wish you could have gone just to see it. But like I said, I got a column coming out about it, and I'm writing about it a little later. So
awesome.
Should be interesting. There were a lot of Maryland advocates there as well.
I'm sure. Fingers crossed.
Enough weed talk.
In Maryland.
When we get back, we will talk about some more stuff. But I'm Clinton Yates. I'm fascinated with where this is going to go.
I am too, man.
Medicinally, recreationally, otherwise, weed is here to stay in America. I'm Clinton Yates. I'm filling in for Bill Press. We'll be right back.
Okay, friends, hey, we need your attention here and need your help. Yep, it's that time again, our pledge drive for Free Speech TV, but it is so, so important. We say often on the show that this is like a two-way street. Well, it is in more than one way. I mean, one way is every day we'll tell you what's going on here in Washington, D.C., around the country, around the globe. We'll bring you up to date on all the latest news, and then we open up the phones, we open up the social media sites so you can tell us. That's the two-way street. We tell you what's going on. You tell us what you think about it, what it means to you, what it means to your family, what it means to your community, and whether you think this is good or bad for America. That's one way we're a two-way street. We're also a two-way street in a couple of times a year. We not only continue to bring you the best show, the best broadcasting, the best insights, the best commentary, the best guests, the best analysis that we can every day, but we turn to you to help us keep this great network, Free Speech TV, on the air. It is one of its kind. You don't find this anywhere else, and believe me, I've worked at ABC and MSNBC and CNN and a couple of other networks. This Free Speech TV is the only truly free and independent and uncensored and fearless cable television network out there. But without any government support, any corporate support, we depend on you to keep free speech going. So we ask you again, please be as generous as you can and do it today. We need to make at least $1,000 every day from our pledge drive to keep free speech going and to keep this show going. If you can help us with $60 a week, tell you what, we'll send you $60 a year. That's $5 a month. Send you a Free Speech TV travel mug for $120 a year. That's just $10 a month. Send you that Free Speech travel mug and a Free Speech TV T-shirt for $240 a year, $20 a month. A great, great gift. A Bill Press Show mug, and then a copy, a box of gifts from Africa. It's called the Equal Exchange African Gift Box, which includes a pound of coffee, some shea butter soap, a bangle bracelet, and peppermint limb balm, among other objects in this exciting Equal Exchange African Gift Box for $360 a year or $30 a month. How about this? A Free Speech TV mug, 2 Bill Press mugs, and that African gift box. And if you can manage to help Free Speech TV with $1,000, you make your way to Washington, and Carol and I will take you out to dinner, and then you come into the studio the next morning and meet all of our team and enjoy the show. Make your pledge today as generously as you can by phone at 877-378-8669 or online at freespeechtv.org. Thank you for your help.
Bill Press Show.
Welcome back to the program. I'm Clinton Yates, filling in for Bill, who is in, Vegas?
He's in Vegas.
Huh.
Yeah, he's got a speech out there.
That's nice. Must be nice.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not snowy and
I'm
icy
sure it's
in
not
Vegas.
nasty weather there.
Yeah. All right, let's see what the president's doing today. At 1:30, he is going to meet with the Secretary of Defense, Carter. Wonder what they're going to talk about. That's going to be, I guess that was going to be after the BB speech. So
interesting.
That'll be an interesting discussion. And then just before 3 o'clock, the president and the First Lady are going to deliver remarks on the expanding efforts to help adolescent girls worldwide attend and stay in school. They both don't normally talk at the same time, so that'll be fun to see. And then at 4 o'clock, he is apparently meeting with senior advisors. I guess today is a really big day for him because of the situation that's happening with Netanyahu. But because we're talking about presidents, I want to bring up something else, which is that presidential portrait of Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys talked about this.
We haven't yet.
Yesterday, but
hit it.
Have you seen that?
Yeah, I have.
First of all, it's a pretty good painting.
Yeah.
It looks pretty good. But the notion that an artist would put in a reference to Monica Lewinsky, that's pretty cold-blooded.
Yeah, that artist owned up to it.
I mean,
he said, I did it.
Like, that's awkward.
Yeah.
Very, very awkward. It's at the National Portrait Gallery.
It's at the National. You can go see it right now.
I might have to.
And the stories are the Clintons want that thing down.
I'm sure they do.
Yes, they do.
That's embarrassing as hell.
Yeah, it is.
I can't believe the guy had the balls to do that.
I can't believe he had the balls to do it and then say it while he's like quite publicly.
Yeah, no, I mean it's
so there's a shadow on the portrait, and he says that he had a mannequin with a blue dress.
Well, that's what it looks like.
Yeah,
I mean once you know what you're looking at, it is very clearly a dress.
Yeah,
and it's kind of like, oh, you thought you were getting away from this one, not going to happen.
No.
Second paragraph of the story of his life is Monica Lewinsky.
Yep,
it really is.
Yeah,
it's weird. Blue dresses, man, still in the news. Was it blue? Was it black?
White,
was
gold,
it white or was
blue?
it gold? I don't know. We'll be back. I'm Clinton Yates.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000.
I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan.
And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately that's been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment, and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
Show.
It's me, kiddos. Clinton Yates from the Washington Post, filling in for Bill here. It's Tuesday, March 3rd, 2015. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, listening on your local progressive talk radio station. You might be watching on youtube.com at TawkrTV or on Free Speech TV. Or if you're listening to us on the iHeartRadio app or the TuneIn app, I appreciate that as well. You want to holler at us on the social media, Facebook.com/Bill Press Show is the way to go for that. And or Twitter.com @BP Show. Hit up Peter on these tweets.
Here we are.
Might as well retweet you if we like it. If we don't, you will get blocked. I'm joking. I'm joking. It's not that serious. Peter, what's up? How are you?
Good to see you, man. Thanks for coming in.
Of course. Across the glass is one Elisa Murphy handling the board. How are you?
Hey, good. How are you doing?
If you give us a phone call at 866, If you give us a phone call at 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377, Alicia Cruz will answer your phone calls. And, of course, Cyprian Bolding is making us all look good here on these cameras this early in the morning. Headline, Peter. Decision reached in case of free-ranged kids.
Oh, nice.
Now, this is a story from the state that you live in.
Maryland.
The deck says parents frustrated by unsubstantiated child neglect finding, where basically these parents allow their kids to walk back from the park alone on occasion. They say, look, they know the neighborhood. It's a safe enough neighborhood. We teach our kids to be decent human beings. They've got these little cards that say, I'm not lost, I'm just free range. And they walk home. A couple of parents decided that they didn't like the way that was going, so they called the cops who picked up these kids. And now this one family is under some level of surveillance or probation or what have you.
Yeah.
For being free-range parents. You're a dad, obviously. You live in Maryland. What do you think about this scenario?
You know, I'm kind of torn about it because I think that it's a really, really tough job to try and legislate parenting, right?
Yeah.
To try and have the government step in and say what you're doing as a parent works or doesn't work. And then there are also some issues of the safety of children and where they should be and how long they should be away from adult supervision, depending on their ages and things like that. I usually fall in the camp of the parents because, no kids are the same. I've got a 10-year-old, I've got a 7-year-old. The 7-year-old is far and away more responsible than the 10-year-old. 7-year-old's more responsible than me,
right?
In a lot of ways. Like, I'm kind of thinking about letting him do my taxes next year. He's just a responsible,
just a good kid, yeah.
Kid, right? My kids roam the neighborhood during appropriate hours. We've got a cell phone now that they share when we're not around, and when they go over to a friend's house, they take the cell phone with them. I've never thought or been, I put it this way, I've never been concerned for their safety because as their parent, I tell them what's good, what's acceptable, what's not good. I hope that they do it. But what are you going to do? You can't be we go from free-range parenting to helicopter parenting, right? Like, I can't be with them all the time. They're going to have to learn to figure out how to do things on their own.
This story is stunning to me.
It really
I
is.
am shocked that officials found that these parents are somehow in neglect. I mean, look, I don't want to go all uphill to school both ways on you, but like, are you kidding me? They walked home from the park?
Yeah.
And some idiot called the cops, and all of a sudden these parents are under surveillance?
It's like less than a mile, I think, from the park to the house.
I don't understand this on any level at all. As a kid growing up in a far more dangerous scenario than this ever will be in Montgomery County, Maryland.
If people act like it's so dangerous out there today, I don't think it is that much I don't think it is more dangerous out there today.
Absolutely
Kids
not.
have phones. People are more aware. There's more surveillance. Lessons have been taught. Lessons have been learned that we didn't know before. It's safer out there for kids now than ever.
I just don't get what kind of a person sees a kid walking down the street and automatically decides to call the police. I mean, that's just such a strange method of thinking to me. I understand that people's obviously concerns are safety first. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They think that they're trying to do a good thing, but they don't necessarily think about the consequences. But I mean, kids walking down the street are kids walking down the street. I took the train to school ever since I was 10, 11 years old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're going cross town on the subway, on the metro. I mean, it wasn't like I was just walking home from the park. I mean, these were things that needed to be done. I can't imagine that there are so many pearl clutchers in this neighborhood where a kid can't even get home from the park without somebody freaking out.
Pearl clutchers.
Unbelievable.
Now, we should say that if these kids had been playing in the street sure, there's obviously they're in danger and they don't know. But these kids were just by their own admission, by
walking home.
The people who called the police by their own admission, just walk on the sidewalk.
Yeah,
walking home. They didn't think they were old enough to be doing it.
It's a crazy story. Well, I'm not a parent. I'm not a parent, at least not yet. I'm lucky enough to be. But we got a lot coming up this hour. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Speaking of the children, New York City school system has lifted its ban on cell phones in the classroom.
No.
Right?
What?
Yeah, there was a ban on kids having cell phones in the classroom.
Why would you lift that?
And they lifted it because they said that, number one, they could be like an educational aid if you want to take notes on your phone or record stuff on your phone. One of the things they also cited is that if you're in an emergency situation, they want as many phones as possible.
That's understandable.
Obviously, this could and probably will be abused.
This will be a rise in the jump of YouTube videos of things happening in New York classrooms by a wide margin.
Yeah.
And I'm talking like immediate uploads. You know what I mean? Not surfacing 3 months later.
Yeah, right.
And we have a math test today. I think I'll use my calculator.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's,
There are a lot of issues for and against this. I'm not sure where I fall on it, but I think it's fascinating because, I mean, I never had that problem. When I was in school, we didn't have cell phones.
No, not at all. Same here.
Forbes put out their world's billionaires list yesterday. Topping the list, Bill Gates, right here in America. Number 2 is Carlos Slim. They always kind of seem to be the two duking it out. Also, one very, very interesting tidbit on there for the first time ever, Michael Jordan.
MJ.
On the billionaires list. He
What's
was
the number?
1,741st richest man in the world. They say his net worth is right over $1 billion.
I wonder what his technical money stream is.
Yeah.
Like, is he, I mean, I guess because he's employed by the NBA. I mean, or he's a part owner.
He's the owner of the part owner of the Hornets.
Part owner of the Hornets, but he's still getting Nike money.
Gobs of Nike money.
But like, what is it? Just a percentage of all Jordan things? Is he making a salary? How do you think that works?
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I bet it's a percentage.
It's probably a percentage.
I bet at this point that he's making more money than anybody.
God, and all those reboots off of Jordans. I mean, there's an argument that the second life of Jordans has been much larger than the first ever really was, because it's moved on from just sort of a cool thing to like a full-blown establishment level of sneakerheadness if you don't get it. It's crazy.
And one more quick story. Netflix announced that they have the debut dates for a couple of big shows that we know from Netflix. Number 1, the season 3 of Orange is the New Black.
Great show.
Will return on June 12. And Wet Hot American Summer, the new series on Netflix, which I'm amped about.
Beyond it.
Comes out on July 17th. So
I spent a summer taking summer classes at my school just because it was something people did like in college. Every single day after class for like 3 weeks we watched that movie.
How great is it?
Every single day.
So great.
It's a great movie. It was like summer camp every single day, even though we knew the movie by heart by the end. Anyway, it was great.
Perfect.
All right, thank you very much, Peter. On the line we have reporter from Politico, Jonathan Topaz. Good morning, Jonathan.
Hey, John. Oh, I know that sound. All too well.
What is that sound?
That's the old click, hang up, lost the connection.
Alas. All right. Well, we were going to talk to Jonathan about CPAC, a little CPAC recap. I didn't go to CPAC. Did you go?
No.
Have you ever been to CPAC?
I did. I went last year.
What was it like? We're talking about year-old conventions now.
No, but
Conferences now.
it's there's a type that goes to CPAC. There are a lot of American flags.
A lot of guns, I presume.
Lot of people very, very interested, if not actually having guns, having some sort of attire letting you know that they're okay with guns.
Right.
And there are a lot of like establishment people, in suits that are there. But it's a pretty clearly defined crowd there.
Jonathan, we got you back?
Yeah, sorry about that. How are
No
you?
worries, man. What's up? How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks.
So I wanted to get a little CPAC recap from you, and just in terms of what you thought were sort of the biggest storylines coming out of the weekend. Obviously, Jeb Bush had a lot to say in terms of what he's doing in the future. What did you find to be the most compelling story coming out of the weekend?
Yeah, I think Jeb, just talking about him, I think he found a way to manage what was a pretty hostile crowd at CPAC. He was able to both kind of answer to folks who are very skeptical about his conservative bona fides without kind of giving away the house and pandering too much to the conservative base. He's able to kind of talk about immigration in a way that is, he put it kind of in the broader context of him being a very conservative leader. And I think that was a pretty effective performance in a really difficult spot for him. Other than that, I think it was a lot of speeches about national security, which was an interesting tidbit. And I thought you saw a pretty good performance, even though he might have misstepped a little bit. It was a pretty good performance from Scott Walker, both how his speech was received and in the straw poll.
How much of a circus was it compared to sort of the normal year? I mean, CPAC is known for bringing out some real crazies, not just in terms of what people believe about the speakers, but in terms of the people who show up in the wild outfits and all that other stuff. What was the environment like?
It was one of the busier CPACs, I think, in recent history. I mean, look, I think that the clown car aspect remains an issue. On the one hand, you have conservative candidates who are trying to be credible, and actually, it was a really packed house for Phil Robertson from Duck Dynasty, who was speaking just minutes before Jeb Bush. So there is a sense that this clown car, it still could be a problem for the Republican Party, but it's a much deeper field than it was in 2012. There are a lot of pretty credible candidates on the GOP side. So, obviously CPAC is always going to have its kind of campy aspect to it. But it was, I think the number of pretty serious candidates on stage kind of mitigated that.
But I think even some of the serious candidates there didn't do so well. I think the only one that really didn't cater his message to the CPAC crowd was Jeb Bush, and people streamed out of his speech and he was booed, right?
The notion of people kind of streaming out of his speech was a little overblown. It was a very packed house. You got several standing ovations. There were kind of mixes of cheers and boos, but he did a lot better than at least I was expecting, and many others were expecting. CPAC is what they call a red meat conference. There are a lot of folks who are trying to appeal very much to the conservative base, firing up the crowd. It's a place where folks like Ted Cruz always do very well. So there is an aspect to that. It was a place for for conservative activists to kind of take a look at this field and what it's going to look like. I guess I would agree that a lot of the speeches were maybe a little bit more pandering, a lot more red meat than you might expect elsewhere. But all told, it still remains a pretty credible field, I'd say.
We're talking with Politico reporter Jonathan Topaz. You can follow him on Twitter at the same name and read his stuff over at Politico.com. Do you think CPAC is, where do you think, if you were to do sort of a hot list or sort of an up... Hello? Did we lose him?
We lost him.
All right.
Again.
Alas.
I know that sound well. I think we're done with Mr. Topaz now.
Where do you think CPAC is in terms of moving up and down in terms of a relevant, event for the GOP? I'll ask you that question.
Yeah. No, I think that look, the reality is it should be on its way down.
Yeah.
There was... we mentioned Phil Robertson, the guy from Duck Dynasty. He got a Freedom of Speech award. He showed up and said...
He said some crazy stuff.
Said that there are a spread of STDs are the revenge of beatniks and hippies. There was a woman that they let speak who got up and compared Hillary Clinton to a man. Said Hillary Clinton... she talked about the rich white men and the Democrats and included Hillary Clinton, then said, well, if the pantsuit fits...
Wow.
They had Ted Cruz, who made a joke about beating his wife.
What?
No joke.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if Elisa has time to pull that clip up, but he was asked by Sean Hannity, he said, I'm only going to ask you this question because I know that the liberal Democrats are going to ask you this question when you run for president. And Ted Cruz says, the answer is, I stopped beating my wife, which is not a funny joke.
Let's hear that.
Yeah, listen.
I want to warn everybody, I am asking this next question because I know the liberal media will. Okay, so might as well get it out of the way for them. That's my job. I get paid to do that.
No, I have not stopped beating my wife.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
He said that. Now, he's going to be a candidate for president.
Like legit.
A legit candidate for president. He's running for president. And he stood on that stage and said that. Had you heard that before?
No.
Could you imagine if Joe Biden said that?
Right. It would. Oh my God! It would be all over the place.
It would be nuclear. Sorry, I was going to say nuclear because we're talking about CPAC.
Right.
It was nuclear.
That is. I was going to go, but it didn't end up working out because I was at the Cannabis convention. But that freak show aspect is one that's always intrigued me. But I've always misunderstood. Why would you want that to be that way?
I know.
I don't get that.
I really don't get it.
I don't get that at all. Anyway, all right. We'll probably talk more about this a little bit when we get back. I want to thank Jonathan Topaz for coming on, even though that was difficult.
Landlines, people, they still have their place.
Turns out. All right. I'm Clinton Yates. It's the Bill Press Show. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, friends, hey, we need your attention here and need your help. Yep, it's that time again, our pledge drive for Free Speech TV, but it is so important. We say often on the show that this is like a two-way street. Well, it is in more than one way. I mean, one way is every day we'll tell you what's going on here in Washington, D.C., around the country, around the globe. We'll bring you up to date on all the latest news, and then we open up the phones, we open up the social media sites so you can tell us. That's the two-way street. We tell you what's going on. You tell us what you think about it, what it means to you, what it means to your family, what it means to your community, and whether you think this is good or bad for America. That's one way we're a two-way street. We're also a two-way street in a couple of times a year. We not only continue to bring you the best show, the best broadcasting, the best insights, the best commentary, the best guests, the best analysis that we can every day, but we turn to you to help us keep this great network, Free Speech TV, on the air. It is one of its kind. You don't find this anywhere else, and believe me, I've worked at ABC and MSNBC and CNN and a couple of other networks. This Free Speech TV is the only truly free and independent and uncensored and fearless cable television network out there. But without any government support, any corporate support, we depend on you to keep free speech going. So we ask you again, please be as generous as you can and do it today. We need to make at least $1,000 every day from our pledge drive to keep free speech going and to keep this show going. If you can help us with $60 a week, tell you what, we'll send you $60 a year. That's $5 a month. Send you a Free Speech TV travel mug for $120 a year. That's just $10 a month. Send you that Free Speech travel mug and a Free Speech TV T-shirt for $240 a year, $20 a month. A great gift. A Bill Press Show mug, and then a a box of gifts from Africa. It's called the Equal Exchange African Gift Box, which includes a pound of coffee, some shea butter soap, a bangle bracelet, and peppermint limb balm, among other objects in this exciting Equal Exchange African Gift Box for $360 a year or $30 a month. How about this? A Free Speech TV mug, 2 Bill Press mugs, and that African gift box. And if you can manage to help Free Speech TV with $1,000, you make your way to Washington, and Carol and I will take you out to dinner, and then you come into the studio the next morning and meet all of our team and enjoy the show. Make your pledge today as generously as you can by phone at 877-378-8669 or online at freespeechtv.org. Thank you for your help.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Welcome back to the program. I'm Clinton Yates. I'm a columnist at the Washington Post. As we've been going through the show today and just sort of talking about different things, one of the things we touched on earlier was the situation regarding Hillary Clinton's personal email account and her usage of it as Secretary of State. More details have come out. It's sort of been steamrolling a little bit. This story is growing.
I'm going to quote straight from the New York Times. Mrs. Clinton did not have a government email address during her 4-year tenure at the State Department. Her aides took no actions to have her personal emails preserved on department servers at this time, as required by the Federal Records Act. End quote.
This is really bad.
That is not good at all.
I don't understand how that happens. I mean, that moves to a level where you got to think some other factors were at play here besides just laziness or an individual effort to try to mask one's own. I mean, to never have a government email address? What? I mean, how? What? That seems unfathomable. Legitimately.
The whole point here, when you serve in government, is that you serve the American people.
Particularly when you're a diplomat.
And there's got to be some oversight.
Of course.
End of story.
I don't
understand. I think that you're onto something. This certainly signifies that there's something bigger happening, but at the very least, it's an ignorance of what you're even there to do.
Yeah, I don't think Hillary Clinton or one specific person can walk into a room and say, I'm using my personal email without somebody else knowing why and how to even allow that to go on. Yeah. This story is only going to get worse for Hillary before it gets better. We'll see how it goes. I'm Clinton Yates. It's the Bill Press Show. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, friends, hey, we need your attention here and need your help. Yep, it's that time again, our pledge drive for Free Speech TV, but it is so important. You know, we say often on the show that this is like a two-way street. Well, it is in more than one way. I mean, one way is every day we'll tell you what's going on here in Washington, D.C., around the country, around the globe. We'll bring you up to date on all the latest news, and then we open up the phones, we open up the social media sites so you can tell us. That's the two-way street. We tell you what's going on. You tell us what you think about it, what it means to you, what it means to your family, what it means to your community, and whether you think this is good or bad for America. That's one way we're a two-way street. We're also a two-way street in a couple of times a year. We not only continue to bring you the best show, the best broadcasting, the best insights, the best commentary, the best guests, the best analysis that we can every day, but we turn to you to help us keep this great network, Free Speech TV, on the air. You know, it is one of its kind. You don't find this anywhere else. And believe me, you know, I've worked at ABC and MSNBC and CNN and a couple of other networks. This Free Speech TV is the only truly free and independent and uncensored and fearless cable television network out there. But without any government support, any corporate support, we depend on you to keep free speech going. So we ask you again, please be as generous as you can and do it today. We need to make at least $1,000 every day from our pledge drive to keep free speech going and to keep this show going. If you can help us with $60 a week, tell you what, we'll send you $60 a year. That's $5 a month. Send you a Free Speech TV travel mug for $120 a year. That's just $10 a month. Send you that Free Speech travel mug and a Free Speech TV T-shirt for $240 a year, $20 a month. A great, great gift. A Bill Press Show mug, and then a copy, a box of gifts from Africa. It's called the Equal Exchange African Gift Box, which includes a pound of coffee, some shea butter soap, a bangle bracelet, and peppermint limb balm, among other objects in this exciting Equal Exchange African Gift Box for $360 a year or $30 a month. How about this? A Free Speech TV mug, 2 Bill Press mugs, and that African gift box. And if you can manage to help Free Speech TV with $1,000, you make your way to Washington, and Carol and I will take you out to dinner, and then you come into the studio the next morning and meet all of our team and enjoy the show. Make your pledge today as generously as you can by phone at 877-378-8669 or online at freespeechtv.org. Thank you for your help.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania. Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water. Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
Welcome back to the program, folks. My name is Clinton Yates. I'm a columnist at the Washington Post. I'm filling in for Bill Press here on a Tuesday. On the line, we've got my friend and colleague, Wesley Lowery, who is in a place you might have heard of before. Good morning, Wesley.
Good morning. Nice to join you, Clinton.
How are you? Where are you at?
I'm doing all right. I'm down in Alabama, and I'm a little between Birmingham and Selma right now.
Roll Tide. Roll Tide.
Something like that. I don't know. I haven't been quite converted yet. I've only been here a few hours.
Right.
We'll see.
It won't take long.
What are you down there working on?
A little bit of everything. As you know, and a lot of you listeners probably know, the 50th anniversary of the Bloody Sunday March is this upcoming weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm poking around here on a few different pieces, kind of getting ready for that big anniversary where the president's going to be down here. George W. Bush will be down here as well. Something like 90 members of Congress will be down here. And obviously there's going to be a lot of conversation around both the Bloody Sunday March as well as the Voting Rights Act, which was one of the big kind of victories around that. And all this is obviously propelled by the success of the film Selma that came out last year in advance of this anniversary.
I was going to say, that's an interesting time to be there because, the anniversary is obviously happening, the film. How, for lack of a better question, how big do you think that event is going to be, the anniversary?
Oh, I think it's going to be huge. I think just in terms of, even if you just think about, two presidents, President Obama as well as George W. Bush at the very least. It's unclear yet if Clinton's going to come. 90 members of Congress. You're going to have pretty much every elected official in Alabama is going to be down there. And so even if you just talk about those people,
That's already a huge event, much less all of the civil rights groups that are coming down, all the activists coming from around the country. I mean, we're talking about thousands and thousands of people who are going to be down here in what is still a very kind of small rural part of Alabama.
Anytime that John Lewis goes back to that bridge, it's a big, big deal. But the fact that the first African-American president of the United States is going to be there at the bridge, which is named after a member of the Ku Klux Klan, Edmund Pettus, that is something worth noting.
Wow.
100%. Like 100%. It's going to be really fascinating. It's just going to be it's quite a noteworthy kind of time to be down here.
Right. Let's switch gears a little bit now. You've obviously spent a lot of time in Ohio as one of the places you grew up, and the situation regarding Tamir Rice and what the city has said and sort of how that's unfolded has had yet another chapter. Tell me a little bit more about this. I mean, the city basically released wording that basically blamed Tamir for his own death. What exactly were the details of that scenario?
Of course. So essentially, as is almost always the case in these types of shootings and these events, the family filed a civil lawsuit against the city, a wrongful death lawsuit, which in many ways is the only real successful means of recourse for a family of someone shot by a police officer. There's kind of this understanding that you fight for either an indictment or you fight for charges, but that's an uphill battle. However, very often you can get the city to settle it out of court in a civil suit. So the Tamir Rice's family filed a civil suit, and now months later, the city of Cleveland finally formally responded. Now, in their response, they used very little language. They didn't talk very much at all about the case. But in the language they did include, they made it clear. They said, we don't believe we're at fault. In fact, the plaintiff here, Tamir Rice's family and Tamir Rice himself, any harm that came to them or any pain and suffering they experienced, they essentially said it was their own fault. It was because they didn't take necessary steps to avoid it. Now, again, this was in some ways kind of boilerplate language, but not the kind of stuff that not that a city or city officials who were kind of paying attention to the tone would have used. And so this immediately sparked a lot of outrage, especially in Cleveland, immediately got picked up nationally. And then they filed this late Friday night. It basically stirred all weekend. It was getting picked up everywhere. I talked to the attorney first thing yesterday morning for the Rice family. He was outraged. And by the end of the day, Frank Jackson, the black mayor of Cleveland, was on television apologizing.
We're talking with Wesley Lowery of the Washington Post. You can follow him on Twitter at Wesley Lowery. Do you think that any of these most recent sort of pieces of scuttlebutt regarding the Tamir Rice civil suit are going to affect the actual case?
I think it'll be really interesting. The Tamir Rice case, in a lot of ways, I think is going to be another big jumping-off point once we have a decision about whether or not these officers are charged. Because if you look at the kind of hierarchy of some of these cases, Michael Brown and Ferguson, there was a reasonable person could ask clear questions. Okay, if you had the shoplifting thing that was going on, there was clearly some type of altercation, there was physical contact. So if you wanted to side with Darren Wilson, you could find space to do that. In some of these other cases, in Eric Gardner, which a lot of people, even more so than Michael Brown case, a lot of people in the Eric Gardner case were like, this was unacceptable. Some people could make the argument, well, he was told that to stop resisting. He was told he was being put under arrest, and his response was, no, you're not going to arrest. A reasonable person might say, well, you can't tell a police officer, no, you can't arrest him. Shouldn't have been, and so you have these kind of outs for people. The Rice case is a little harder and a little different. Because, again, this is a child who's playing in a park who's committed no crime. Again, you could make the argument Brown had committed a crime. You could make the argument Eric Gardner had committed a crime. Tamir Rice has committed no crime, and then we see on video how quickly they pull up and how quickly he shot and killed, that there's almost no chance that he had been instructed to do anything that he didn't do. And so because of that, I think there's a real... And on top of that, and then even more background on that, is that this police officer who was involved in this case, it's become very clear that he very likely shouldn't have been hired to be a police officer in the first place. And so because of that, I think you have a lot of people, I don't think this story has gotten as big nationally as it could, in part because a lot of people are saying, let's wait and see. Let's wait and see if they charge this officer. Let's see if they get this right. Where the jump-off point will be is if they do not charge the officer. I think that this is going to blow up the way Eric Gardner did. Now, the only other thing I'll add is that it's interesting to see the way Cleveland's trying to handle it. I talk to officials in Cleveland often, and they want to be they're trying to be very conscious. They're trying, in fact, I was surprised by the slip-up obviously, because they're trying to be very conscious. How can we not be like Ferguson? How can we not be like New York? We've got a black mayor. We've got a black police chief. They immediately kicked this investigation over to the county sheriff's department, where it's being run by the first black county sheriff's deputy in the history of the state. And so they've been very conscious of optics.
Right.
They're like, okay, like our independent investigator is going to be the most unimpeachable black police officer in the state.
Right.
He's the guy investigating this, and so it's going to be very, it's going to be very interesting to see what exactly happens, what if any charges we see. It's really a toss-up right now what's going to happen, but I think that's going to determine in some ways the legacy of this case is what they end up doing.
So we'll see what happens on that. But then I want to get to the issue of the Department of Justice and whether or not they might get involved in this case, or what they're doing with Ferguson or Eric Garner, and kind of how the federal level is looking at cases like this.
Of course, and this is really a moment. I mean, you got to think. Eric Holder is on the way out. This is a moment where you're seeing a host of issues in criminal justice reform, on policing reform. You're seeing the White House and the Attorney General's office really trying to make a mark here. And so I would expect, honestly, I'd expect news either later today, maybe tomorrow, but certainly this week on the investigation into Ferguson PD. And this is, again, their bigger investigation. They've got two going on right now. And so what we're going to find out this week is they're going to formally not charge Darren Wilson with a civil rights crime, which we knew. We knew that was coming. But then they are very likely going to rip into Ferguson PD. They're going to call them basically systemically racist. They're going to say the way they issue their speeding tickets and the way they use racial profiling is systemically flawed, and they're likely going to possibly sue the city the way we've seen in other places like in Cleveland and in Camden and Newark and Philadelphia. And so we're going to see that's going to pop this week, guaranteed. Eric Holder promised he would do it before he left, and Loretta Lynch is in the process of being confirmed. And so this is the timetable. We're also going to see, we've already seen it, but we're seeing a lot more federal involvement in police departments. In fact, one of the things that kicked off this momentum right after the Tamir Rice shooting was the patterns and practices investigation DOJ dropped in Cleveland, where they essentially concluded that, like, basically the Cleveland police officers shoot people all the time when they don't need to. This was a really, really searing report that they dropped. We're seeing a lot of this. And so I do think that there's a lot of momentum being pushed by the federal level. I mean, again, you've got your first black attorney general, your first black president, people who both came up as kind of liberal civil rights, constitutional attorneys and professors, people who care very deeply about kind of racial politics, as well as this idea of the different racial discrepancies in justice. And so these are things that we know anecdotally that the president and the attorney general care about. And so this is in some ways a way for them to varnish their legacy a little bit more around these issues. And that all teams up with the stuff like the asset forfeiture stuff that they're working on as well. It's some of the drug law rollbacks, and then also this criminal justice reform we're seeing moving on the Hill right now. And so it all kind of comes together in this way to build some momentum around these issues.
He's Wesley Lowery. He's in Alabama. He's covering Selma stuff, 50th anniversary coming up. Thank you, sir.
Anytime, brother.
All right,
man.
Wesley, if you hit if you're near a Dreamland barbecue, dude, you got to hit the Dreamland barbecue.
Greenland barbecue.
Dreamland.
Dreamland barbecue.
Yeah.
All right.
Pro tip.
All right. Next time I'm on, I'm gonna give you guys a review of that.
All right, buddy.
All right, man.
All right.
Talk to you later.
See you, Wesley.
Wesley's a colleague of mine. You can follow him on Twitter at Wesley Lowery. Obviously, you can find his work at WashingtonPost.com. Tremendous website full of great journalists. I'm Clinton Yates. This is the Bill Press Show. We'll be back.
Okay, friends, hey, we need your attention here and need your help. Yep, it's that time again, our pledge drive for Free Speech TV, but it is so important. You know, we say often on the show that this is like a two-way street. Well, it is in more than one way. I mean, one way is every day we'll tell you what's going on here in Washington, D.C., around the country, around the globe. We'll bring you up to date on all the latest news, and then we open up the phones, we open up the social media sites so you can tell us. That's the two-way street. We tell you what's going on. You tell us what you think about it, what it means to you, what it means to your family, what it means to your community, and whether you think this is good or bad for America. That's one way we're a two-way street. We're also a two-way street in a couple of times a year we not only continue to bring you the best show, the best broadcasting, the best insights, the best commentary, the best guests, the best analysis that we can every day, but we turn to you to help us keep this great network, Free Speech TV, on the air. You know, it is one of its kind. You don't find this anywhere else, and believe me, you know, I've worked at ABC and MSNBC and CNN and a couple of other networks. This Free Speech TV is the only truly free and independent and uncensored and fearless cable television network out there. But without any government support, any corporate support, we depend on you to keep free speech going. So we ask you again, please be as generous as you can and do it today. We need to make at least $1,000 every day from our pledge drive to keep free speech going and to keep this show going. If you can help us with $60 a week, tell you what, we'll send you $60 a year. That's $5 a month. Send you a Free Speech TV travel mug for $120 a year. That's just $10 a month. Send you that Free Speech travel mug and a Free Speech TV T-shirt for $240 a year, $20 a month. A great, great gift. A Bill Press Show mug, and then a copy, a box of gifts from Africa. It's called the Equal Exchange African Gift Box, which includes a pound of coffee, some shea butter soap, a bangle bracelet, and peppermint limb balm, among other objects in this exciting Equal Exchange African Gift Box for $360 a year or $30 a month. How about this? A Free Speech TV mug, 2 Bill Press mugs, and that African gift box. And if you can manage to help Free Speech TV with $1,000, you make your way to Washington, and Carol and I will take you out to dinner, and then you come into the studio the next morning and meet all of our team and enjoy the show. Make your pledge today as generously by phone at 877-378-8669 or online at freespeechtv.org. Thank you for your help.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
I got to put it really quickly because there was Martin O'Malley.
Oh, right.
Was going to Robert Mikulski. She's not. Martin O'Malley this morning putting out a statement says he will not be running for that seat.
Tell you what, I don't believe him. I don't. What's he going to do? Run for president? That's what he's talking about.
That's what he wants to do.
I think he's actually got a better chance of getting that later down the line if he's already a senator, honestly.
Yeah,
I think that would actually be super foolish not to run for that seat. He would win in a landslide.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, what is he talking about? Anyway, that's too many local politics. That's an aside. So we had Movie Club last week.
Oh.
For those of you who listen to this show with any regularity when I host, you know that I host a movie club. Basically, it's a book club without the hassle of reading books, because who wants to do that? Basically, we just... we go to the movies and, we talk about them afterwards, drink some beers, and then we're done. It's a one-day operation. We saw a movie called A Most Violent Year.
Oh, nice.
Now, it stars this guy, Oscar Isaac, who's in, I can't remember the name of that other movie, but he plays a character where it's sort of billed as a bit of a mob movie.
It looks like a mob movie from the trailer. It
looks like a mob movie, but what's interesting about it is that it's like a mob movie without the mob. Nobody in it is specifically in organized crime in terms of all the characters around the story. And the story focalizes around an oil business competing against other small oil businesses in early 80s New York. And it's kind of extremely compelling because you're kind of like, well, why would I care about, like, this isn't Lufthansa heist level at all. This is very small time stuff where these guys are simply moving trucks around the tri-state area trying to get an edge on the next guy via standard industry practices that all involve basically stealing from customers on some level, rigging scales and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
But it manages to draw you into this world of oil trading that is apparently very lucrative, but at the same time, the level of violence is like sort of low.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's called The Most Violent Year, but it's not a very violent movie.
Every mob movie I've ever seen has been, or like The Sopranos, or
hyper-violent.
Hyper-violent.
This is not that at all. It's much more a movie that sort of just makes you feel tense because of the threat of something potentially going wrong. It's actually a very well-crafted film in that regard. Yeah, I was like actively anxious in the movie theater for the first hour of the film.
If you do that well, that gets me.
Yeah, it gets you uncomfortable.
Violence doesn't bug me. None of that stuff. That gets me.
But thinking about the potential of violence is very much uncomfortable. So it also looks very good. It's got a cool little soundtrack. It's got a lot of 80s wardrobing that's not overdone. We're not talking American Hustle style. It's not that ridiculous, but it's more probably like what your dad dressed like in the 80s with his sharp-dressed friend kind of thing. But I would recommend it. I don't know that I'm going to see it again.
Yeah.
But it was quite an interesting movie. And like I said, the world of New Jersey oil hustling, had no idea I cared about it that much.
It's a whole new world.
Till I finally saw it.
How was Jessica Chastain in it?
She was good. One of the guys in the movie club said that the problem with her is that she was almost... I talk about this a lot when I talk about movies, which is intertextuality. You know, people who have been in certain things, some roles you just are like, I don't know about this, you know. And he was sort of felt that way about her, although the character she played was really, really good. There's Albert Brooks is in it.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. And his character to me was fascinating. Like he plays this sort of side lawyer guy.
I love
who's
Albert
kind of like a quasi-consigliere, but they're not technically in the mob. So like
perfect.
He's the kind of guy that, you know, if you're sort of looking for a random reason to check out that movie, he's a good player. But it got an overall like a B from because it wasn't that great. I think it could have been a better movie.
It wasn't nominated for Best Picture, was it?
No.
She was nominated.
I don't think it got
for an actor.
Was she? I don't know. I don't think it got that many noms, but it was an interesting flick. It's a good Netflix flick.
Yeah,
you know, if you rate movies on the theater, Netflix, cable, TNT scale, it's in the Netflix territory.
Nice.
Anyway,
check it out.
That's all I got in Movie Club. We're gonna wrap up the show here when we get back. We had a lot of people on, some more briefly than others, and we'll talk about it when we get back. I'm Clinton Yates, The Bill Press Show.
Okay, friends, hey, we need your attention here and need your help. Yep, it's that time again, our pledge drive for Free Speech TV, but it is so important. You know, we say often on the show that this is like a two-way street. Well, it is in more than one way. I mean, one way is every day we'll tell you what's going on here in Washington, D.C., around the country, around the globe. We'll bring you up to date on all the latest news, and then we open up the phones, we open up the social media sites so you can tell us. That's the two-way street. We tell you what's going on. You tell us what you think about it, what it means to you, what it means to your family, what it means to your community, and whether you think this is good or bad for America. That's one way we're a two-way street. We're also a two-way street in a couple of times a year. We not only continue to bring you the best show, the best broadcasting, the best insights, the best commentary, the best guests, the best analysis that we can every day, but we turn to you to help us keep this great network, Free Speech TV, on the air. You know, it is one of its kind. You don't find this anywhere else, and believe me, you know, I've worked at ABC and MSNBC and CNN and a couple of other networks. This Free Speech TV is the only truly free and independent and uncensored and fearless cable television network out there. But without any government support, any corporate support, we depend on you to keep free speech going. So we ask you again, please be as generous as you can and do it today. We need to make at least $1,000 every day from our pledge drive to keep free speech going and to keep this show going. If you can help us with $60 a week, tell you what, we'll send you $60 a year. That's $5 a month. Send you a Free Speech TV travel mug for $120 a year. That's just $10 a month. Send you that Free Speech travel mug and a Free Speech TV T-shirt for $240 a year, $20 a month. A great gift. A Bill Press Show mug and then a copy, a box of gifts from Africa. It's called the Equal Exchange African Gift Box, which includes a pound of coffee, some shea butter soap, a bangle bracelet, and peppermint limb balm, among other objects in this exciting Equal Exchange African Gift Box for $360 a year or $30 a month. How about this? A Free Speech TV mug, 2 Bill Press mugs, and that African gift box. And if you can manage to help Free Speech TV with $1,000, you make your way to Washington, and Carol and I will take you out to dinner, and then you come into the studio the next morning and meet all of our team and enjoy the show. Make your pledge today as generously as you can by phone at 877-378-8669 or online at freespeechtv.org. Thank you for your help.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, my name is Clinton Yates, coming to a close here on this Tuesday morning. What did we do today, Peter?
We covered a lot of ground today, man.
Covered a lot of ground. We talked to politics reporter Arthur Delaney of Huffington Post. We discussed food stamp stuff, drug testing.
And we're definitely going to get Bill that dollar.
There's some debts to settle. Arthur is a guy that is from this city. We have actually a lot of mutual friends on a personal level, which is always fun. Igor was here, as he always is on Tuesday, managing editor for Think Progress, and we discussed Netanyahu, who's speaking at 11. You said you're not going to watch that?
I am going to watch it.
You are going to watch it. You're not going to
live tweet it.
Pardon me. Igor, you can follow him at Igor Volsky. He's going to live tweet it, which should be exciting. Like I said, C-SPAN getting a lot of ratings. We also talked with the fellow from, National Journal's fellow. She is not a fellow. Priscilla Alvarez, who discussed the situation going on with legalized marijuana, medical marijuana around the country. It's legalized here in D.C. recently, which has been, it's where we live. So that's led to quite an interesting scenario. For those of you who listen regularly, you know that there's a dispensary right down the street from here, from where we are at this moment, whose general manager is a person I happen to know, which is actually an interesting random.
It's a good person to know.
Yeah. She was speaking at that cannabis convention that I went to.
Nice.
And she had a lot of really, really interesting things to say, because there's so many people that are just not quite in the dark. But, you realize, this is actually an aside. I'll get back to this. We talked to Politico reporter Jonathan Topaz for a moment. And we also talked to Wesley Lowery, my buddy, and my colleague for the Washington Post. He's down in Selma. But anyway, back to the marijuana point. You realize how little people know. Like, the average user of cannabis is not a very knowledgeable user necessarily.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's the people who know because they're really, really into it, but there's a lot of people who want to know more. You know, there's just a basic sort of scholarship that people want to have about the product and about the industry. That's actually kind of fascinating.
They know what it is. They have no problem with people using it. Maybe they want to use it a little bit, but they're not as informed because it's been illegal for so long. And there's it's different now than it used to be.
It really is. We're going to hopefully have someone in here to talk about that a little bit more tomorrow, because guess what? I'll still be here. Which means you got to deal with me.
Love it.
For one more day.
Love it.
I'm Clinton Yates. Thanks to everybody. Peter, Alicia, Cyprian. See you tomorrow.
This is the Bill Press Show.